Greetings, gamers, and welcome to Season 6, Episode 1 of Rho Pi Gamma, the Gamers Podcast. Holy hell, we're back.
We're back.
Someone got the defibrillator.
Yeah, it was going to happen one way or the other, dude.
Yeah, especially considering you threatened me with bodily harm if I decided to try to quit this again.
Yes.
Plus Jorge, our international, listener, had posted on our Facebook page. It's like, hey, is Season 6 ever coming back? Ryan from Game Shorts, who we will actually get on the podcast here eventually.
Awesome.
He's actually got a couple of topics he wants to do, including another War Stories episode.
Nice.
Yeah. And actually, I want to go to, because he and his I think it's fiance now. They just bought a house in Manassas, my hometown. And that's where he's going to have a whole room set up for his recording for Game Shorts. So I might go down there and be on Game Shorts as well. But he posted, he was like, yeah, getting caught up on Rho Pi is going to be another season. I'm like, motherfuckers.
Look, I got to be honest with you, dude. And I'm big into all kinds of stuff. Gen Con, doing AEG stuff, and now the Justice and Life thing or whatever. But this podcast has been one of the things that I've looked forward to in my gaming career over the last 6 years. Well, for me, more like 4.5, 5.
That's to say, because you weren't there at the beginning, but we got you in, shortly thereafter.
But no, I've looked forward to this. That's why I told you we're never quitting this. I mean, we're going to be doing this more in rockers, like in retirement homes.
Oh, good grief. So, and I always have trepidations. I always am like, I don't know if I want to do it again. Once I actually get doing it again, though, I'm all into it. But I mean, there is a lot of work that comes into this, and there is some dedication that has to go into this. And I'm one of those that a friend of ours, Kennedy, actually said it best. I am a starter. I'm great at starting stuff. I'm actually really good at organizing. I'm one of the few people that apparently can actually organize gamers. I can't do it very well sometimes, but I'm actually the person that can actually get gamers together and actually do something, which apparently is almost a fucking superpower.
It is.
But I'm really good at like organizing stuff and getting people, motivated to do stuff and put it together, but then keeping it going. Or trying to bring it to a close is something I'm not good at, which unfortunately has been killer with my with the project I'm working on, which Ryan informed me I've tried to keep secret, but I've let stuff slip through because he's going through the seasons, going through our backlog. So, but with my D6 project, I'm struggling to try to keep the motivation going to actually keep getting to try to get it done. Because I don't want that to fall by the wayside like so many other projects. And it helps to have someone to help, motivating. I wouldn't necessarily say poking me because I asked someone to do that once and they really did it the wrong way and actually maybe not want to do the project. But it helps to have someone motivated. It's like, come on, man, let's do this. And, of course, that's you with this. So,
oh, heck yeah.
Because you're like –
bodily harm.
Yeah. And then you were like, I will come up there and hurt you if you say you're not going to try to do this again. I'm like, you suck. So here we are. Woo-hoo. Season 6. Dear God.
It's been a good run, though. I'm quite enjoyed it.
We've had our ups and downs, but yeah, I would definitely have to say. I would say good run. So, now normally we start off a season with the end part of the game that we ended the previous season with. Unfortunately, Miri, though, bless her heart, freaking actually got up and got online with us to at least say hi to Howard, was only running on like an hour and 45 minutes worth of sleep. And she has a game to run later today, so we sent her to bed.
Yeah.
That and she actually wasn't feeling too good on top of all that. So yeah, there's that. So we will do that possibly in another episode or two when she's available. I know actually in season 5, we started season 5 differently because like we had already recorded the second half and you had me publish that before we got season 5 going.
Yes.
So that we seem to be kind of breaking from our tradition there. And although I'm all for one of changing traditions, I'd like to at least know what the hell we're changing it to first. So we'll have to figure something out. But and this season is also probably going to be a bit shorter because we are getting a late start. There are some good reasons and some possible, some people might consider excuses as to why we're getting a late start. But you know what? We're here. Be happy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into too much detail as to some of the issues, but some of them were because some of them are kind of on a personal level. Although that might actually be another topic we can do again, because I'm taking notes as to other topics we can do.
You okay, dude?
Yeah, I'm typing. Sorry.
You just sort of faded out there.
I'm making a note.
I can just see you like also we hear like faint snoring.
No, I do that at work.
Oh my god, that would be epic.
Thankfully, I don't do that while I'm on the phone at work, but I'll be sitting there like, punching in a registration and, all of a sudden kind of doze off and then snap back awake. And I'm like, what part of the process was I in?
That would be epic. Byron?
What? Now, admittedly, I haven't gotten a whole lot of sleep either in the past, 4 days. Because Liz was dog sitting. So kind of like dog / house sitting. Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday night. Thursday night, I actually went up and crashed with her because I didn't have anything else going on Thursday. Wednesday night and Friday night, Friday night I had game, but then after game and on Wednesday night, I was up till almost 5 a.m. both of those nights. And the Wednesday night made that really fun because I had work on Thursday. But yeah, yesterday I slept into 10, 11 o'clock. So, I mean, I got some sleep. It's just throwing my sleep schedule off. Thankfully, last night was okay.
I have an infant.
Yes, I know. You're gonna play that card till it looks like a freaking my old trailer park Lotus, aren't you?
Look. When anyone says anything to me about tired or not or flaking out on them, I'm just like, baby, and there's really. Until you have a small child, you do not understand what an energy sink those things are. It's crazy how your productivity suffers.
Although I will fully admit, you are also one of Liz's and mine's biggest supporters as to not wanting a kid.
Oh no!
Because you were one of those that's like, if anyone, because I remember you used to say, if anyone is arguing as to why Liz and I should have a baby, you were like, dude, just call me up. just put on speakerphone and go, Howard, they say we should have a baby, and just let you go.
That goes to all of our listeners as well. If you're ever in an argument with someone who is pushing you, saying that for whatever reason that your time in life or blah 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 blah, you have to have kids, you don't want kids, and they won't shut up because they use that stupid excuse you don't know until you have them. Contact me through the website.
Because Howard has one.
Give me a contact information, a good time to call them, and I will set them straight for you. Look, understand, I adore my daughter. I cannot imagine my life without her.
She's not even a year old. She's already got him wrapped around her finger.
But the deal is, and I'll just say this here, it's one of those things that you don't want to do unless you are prepared for what it takes to be a parent. You don't want to do it. Just unless you're prepared to take on the responsibility of being a GM and herding cats, you don't want to do it. It's just a headache you don't want to get into.
Now, granted, GMing is one of those things that sometimes you can just kind of jump in feet first with not much prep, and it'll still work out. That is not the case with a baby.
People try, and it usually ends badly.
Badly. Very badly.
Now, I'm sure there's somebody out there who said, well, my parents didn't have any prep. And I'm like, then your parents are lucky.
Yeah, your parents are lucky, or they are really good at adaptation. They're really good with rolling with the punches, which means, hey, they might make good GMs too. But
wow, that'd be another topic.
Yeah. So anyway, where was I? All right. So yeah. Yes, I understand you have a baby, you're tired, but you know what? Again, also kind of like you're the one that had it. So again, you really should have known what you were getting yourself into. Although that actually brings up another question. Just out of curiosity, are you and Jen thinking about another anywhere along the lines, or Cricket? Howard? Oh, it's a real episode now. We apparently have tech issues. A sec here. And you're back?
Yes, our first glitch of the season.
That's what I just said. I was like, well, it's a real episode now. We've already had a tech issue.
I was talking about going over what we did in gaming, about the fact that I didn't remember exactly where basically what I.
Oh, don't tell me it's already happened again.
All
right. Take 2. Or take 3.
Look, like I said, I gamed all last night with like a ton of people doing a ton of stuff, and it did not overload my network. And then all of a sudden this morning, it's being glitchy.
Of course. So, okay. I believe I had actually was asking a question in the terms of, do you think you and Jen are thinking about having another baby here at any point in time?
Eventually, yes. And that was always the plan, but
okay. I was just curious. So anyway, all right. So let's actually get back to the meat of this before, I was actually just sitting here thinking, I'm glad we don't do this live. Yes. Because if we did this live, it would be like 45 minutes of us talking and then like an hour and a half of me sitting here yapping to myself. So
we should do a live show once. Like, I should come visit you and we should do it live with all of the glitches and everything unedited.
Well, no, because that's the thing, because if you in person, it wouldn't be nearly as bad.
Yeah.
So I have been wanting to do like live shows at conventions before, but I don't know if we have anywhere near the right tech. Although, interesting thing, I got in touch with someone that was doing a podcast and was doing interviews all throughout this one day Comic-Con that a local library did. Which apparently there is such a thing as like a library convention circuit. I didn't even know that was a thing, but apparently it is. And he had like this whole setup of, soundboard, mics, headsets. I mean, he had the whole shebang that he was doing. So maybe I can get in touch with him to do something if we can get your ass up here.
But actually, convention circuit, I would be kind of cool to do a mini con down here at the local library. We got an awesome setup for it.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, apparently, especially for like comics specifically, apparently, there is a library convention circuit. I didn't know it was an actual thing. Like I knew, like some places will do like a 1-day con, but I didn't know it was actually like specifically a thing of doing them at libraries all around. But Liz is getting some hookups with this guy, or not? Well, it wasn't him specifically. It was another. It was like Artist Alleyway group or something that was like right next to the guy that did the podcast. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So yeah, like I know we usually do like what we've been doing in gaming, but it's been a while since we've been on the podcast. So why don't you start off, because also personally I want to make sure you're still there.
I am here.
Okay. So why don't you start off just like how has your gaming been in the last like 6 to 8 months? So
since we don't have too much time, I mean I could talk to you all day about it. I believe,
dude, I don't care how much time you take.
I believe, I don't remember if I become the director of Justice in Life before we cut off last one.
No, you were involved with it, but you had not become the director.
So in the past 6 to 8 months, the director of Shine Tower Justice in Life, for those of you who may have forgotten, or for new listeners, Shine Tower is a Savage World setting that was created by a friend of mine named Sean Patrick Fannin. He's the author, and he created an epic high fantasy. You can go to shinetower.com to check us out. Shameless plug. And
Hey,
so
that's what we do.
part of the Kickstarter, which was done 2 years ago, Sean Fannin, the creator, created a living campaign setting. So it's our version of Pathfinder Society, Shadowrun missions, etc. But the difference is rather than doing modules, ours is a living campaign system where GMs sign up with us and then run their own home games, but they tie into overarching themes.
Yeah,
And
from what I remember, it has very few. It does have some guidelines, but very few. Basically, if you just do this, this, and this, you're good.
yes, but everything's intertwined. And it's a very cool set. It's a very cool idea, and it works relatively well. But it requires someone to be at the helm 24/7. It requires someone to pilot the ship. Otherwise, you end up having horrible things happen. Well, anyway, the long and short of it is, he stepped aside a couple months ago and promoted me to be the director. So I'm now the director of the International Justice Live campaign. And we have games all over the world. But like any gaming, games are being created and destroyed all the time. I mean, some games we have, they get in, they get really enthusiastic, and they last, like 3 months. Some games have been going for 3 years. So, it is what it is. But you talk about hurting cats. I'm hurting cats. I'm hurting gamers globally, which is so getting a real feel for anything. I gave up having a firm grasp of what's going on with each individual game a long time ago. Now I just do my thing. People who enjoy it, people still show up at my games. My games still fill up pretty quick. So it is what it is. So I've been doing that, which means that I've been plotting the games for our overarching story arcs now for 6 or so months. And doing my home games, which ties into it. And I got to be honest with you, dude, it has been going gangbusters. My home game has now blown up to 7 people with 1 seat. I now have 8 people showing up on my table pretty much every other Sunday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for my Shintar game. And that is going amazingly well. People are absolutely loving it. People are now cosplaying to my game, creating artifacts, creating shields and swords and stuff. They're showing up in outfits. They bought me a dice goblet to roll my dice. They're getting really, really into it.
You lucky bastard.
Yeah, we have an artist who's beginning to do artwork for it. Inspired artwork. Online, for example, I just ran a super game last night, which was part of one of the Burning Hatred, which is a storyline in my local area where my city is under siege right now. As a matter of fact, we're running the conclusion tonight with my home game. It's amazing. I've been doing convention games as well. As a matter of fact, next week in Dragon Con's coming up, and I will be doing, or I guess this coming weekend, and I will be doing games tied into that. So,
mind you, I don't know when this is actually going to get posted. So
yeah, or it could be last weekend, depending. But anyway,
it's been 8 months. I got to remember how I did all this.
So things have been doing really, really well. We have done some amazing events. We did a huge international meeting. We had the sort of a treaty signed in my city, where gamers came from all over and came to it, and were part of signing a treaty. We concluded one of the big wars in the world, and the players got to fight in this massive war. And then they got to be part of the armistice agreement. We had Rising Darkness, where they got to fight against hordes of undead. Siege again. They were defending a city. It has been an amazing ride, and we are currently just wrapping up. As a matter of fact, tonight is the last night of Burning Hatred, which is wrapping up this huge event, which has destroyed. I just found out yesterday. It's kind of sad, but kind of amazing that. We lost one of the groups, TPK. One of the games got destroyed because they failed, and they got completely wiped off the map.
Wow.
Yes, I mean, it's serious. Things like that can happen. Your entire group can get wiped out in this game. So yeah, we lost an entire game, which is kind of cool, kind of bad. But it does really make it the whole thing seem more real. And then, of course, my players tonight are facing off against a massive creature, and the city is burning. My city of Echelon is now burning. It's being invaded by a horde of enemies. They're being overrun. It's going to be one of those. And they're probably going to be They're going to be major NPCs are going to die. It's possible we might have player death. I doubt it's going to be TPK just because of the level of gamers in my group. but there's a good chance that there's a fair chance that someone might die. So it's some serious stuff, but it has been an absolutely amazing ride. I also, speaking of which, I got to do some play testing. I'm sure people may not be aware of any Rifts fans out there. Savage Worlds is doing a Rifts, so it's the Rift setting in Savage Worlds rules. Sean Patrick Fannin is a co-writer, and I've been able to play test the beta. It is amazeballs. Suddenly a boom cannon. So for those of you who don't know about Rifts, go ahead and look it up, but it's one of the craziest settings ever made.
Yeah.
For those of you who do know about Rifts, all of the Rifts fun without the Palladium crunch. So Fast and Furious rules, Rifts fun, it's awesome. I also was able to play test in a game that's being designed. It's a crossover between Modern Gods and Paragons and Prowlers. It is a new take on supers. I've been able to play that a couple times. I've actually helped create one of the archetypes, so that is amazing. Those should be being out on the market here in the next year or so. So in addition to running this international campaign and running games for people all over the world, I've also been involved in a number of play tests for upcoming products. And adding into that, you have your little project, your D6 project, as you said earlier.
Yep.
I am actually working on a supplement for Shintar.
Really?
Yes, and it's not a secret. So what ended up happening is
I'm sure within like this episode and the next few episodes for this season, mine's no longer going to be a secret either. But
well, what ended up happening is we had a guy who came to me. He's like, "Look, I'd like to do a Lanthor Coast Guard, but there's no rules about the ocean." And I'm like, "You're right. We don't even have boats."
Oh, I remember this. I remember. It was Ricky that did this, right?
Well, Ricky was involved, and so what I did is what I've been working on is I've been working on a naval supplement to Shintar. So what's interesting about being the director of Justice in Life is this. It gives me a certain kind of leeway. So here's how it goes. I'm creating this supplement. I'm putting a lot of work into it. I'm doing a professional job. And when it's done, completely edited and done, then I'm going to offer it to the company, Evil Beagle Games, to publish. Being like, look, this is worth publishing. They may say yay, they may say nay. It all depends. With companies, it all depends on production schedule and what they think will sell and on all that crap. They have finite resources, and they may not want to direct resources to a side project when they still have bigger stuff to be done. Whatever.
Right.
But it doesn't matter because either they take it and they sell it, and I make money. But even if they don't, then I will still be able to implement it in Justice in Life since I'm the director. And what'll be then I'll be able to play test it. So I'm hoping, cross your fingers and the creek don't rise. I'm hoping by next year to actually have full naval combat available for Shintar, just a full naval setting with ships and stats. I've already done a lot of work on it. I have almost all the ships statted out. I'm working on like the regional stuff, but yes, I'm working on my own naval supplement for Shintar to open up the seas for full naval on naval combat. So I'm getting to do a lot of learning about ships and hull design and naval tactics and how to incorporate those into Savage Worlds. Yes, I know there's 50 fathoms, but this is not a Pirates of the Caribbean. This is or Caribbean, however you want to pronounce it. This is a medieval navy, which surprisingly no one seems to know anything about. No gunpowder. No gunpowder. And because I actually am a military historian and I've spent a lot of time studying naval stuff, for once, like I am like a subject matter expert. So,
Heaven forbid.
There's that, and then I'll wrap up with this. Speaking of storylines, we just kicked off Origins this year, which was like 2 or 3 months ago. We kicked off a 1.5-year storyline that's going to carry us all the way through 2016. Damn. Yes, we have just kicked off, and I'm hopefully going to. My plan is to begin we already have Rich Brown as one of our main GMs, and he rated Origins at Gen Con. I was actually able to play in a game at Gen Con, but not one of his. So Dragon Con, I'm planning to begin to open that up in my realm or my area of the world. But we have a 1.5-year storyline that we're plotting out now, which I wrote, co-authored with the other people. And I'm going to be releasing supplemental information. And each of these story arcs, I mean, like we're talking about like 30, 40 pages of information, custom spell designs, characters, scenarios, which is pretty much it's like any sort of mini supplement, pre-gen.
God damn it. Okay, so yes, we're having tech issues, but Howard has informed me that he wants me to go ahead and start on my shite. Anyway, well, and then you're back, so yay!
But yeah, I was basically done, so I figured you go and do your thing.
Well, you stopped mid-sentence. I didn't know if you wanted to.
No, I mean, I'm putting together pre-gens like you'd buy from a store, so I'm being able to write in that kind of process, which is very cool.
Okay, so well, it's actually kind of interesting. You're working on a setting. Our old friend Glenn Welsh contacted me yesterday. He is actually producing a supplement for 5th edition.
Really?
Yep. He's actually taking the old Mystara setting from way back D&D. That apparently it was a campaign setting that kind of fell by the wayside. That he's converted it to 5th edition. So
interesting.
Yeah, and it looks great. Like, because what he shot me a link. He's like, "Does this look good?" And I'm just like, why the fuck is Glenn Welsh freaking messaging me? It's like, because like he and I haven't talked much. I mean, I've got him on Facebook. He messaged me on Facebook, but he and I haven't like talked directly in a bit. And then he was just like, "Does this look good?" And I looked at it. I was just like, "Yeah, it looks great. What the fuck is this?" So, all right, so what I have been doing in gaming, well, the my Epic game, which has been now going on for a year and a half now.
I believe so.
I'd like to say that it's been a year and a half full of gaming. Unfortunately, it's a year and a half because of scheduling. In fact, like all of the month of July, like we didn't do any gaming in the month of July because like the entire month, either I was unavailable or other key players were unavailable. And it was kind of bad, but, we are bringing the Epic game to a close. We've got like one more session, I think, before the actual final fight initiates. And so the demon dragon is free. He has risen. And now the player characters have the entire ritual, all the parts of the ritual, to be able to try to rebind him and then hopefully kill his ass. So that I'm on the one hand, I'm kind of glad to be bringing it to a close because I want to move on to other stuff. On the other hand, it does bring a little bit of a tear to my eye, to see that this because this game has been one of the best that I've ever run, and that's in a big part because of the players that I've got. So, constant shout out to you guys, which of course includes you, Howard.
Thank you.
So I got that, and if you want to talk about scheduling issues, though, oh hell,
yeah,
I've got a Star Wars game that I've been running. It was supposed to be a short campaign, like literally, this was not supposed to take that long. Unfortunately, my group decides to go on tangents in game. And at one point they even decided like, you know what, we're going to take this red herring thing that, we weren't really supposed to be focusing on. And we're going to, okay. I call it the Quest of the Jedi campaign. And basically what it was is they were supposed to go around the universe collecting up these artifacts as part of this Jedi ritual. If they go to the temple on Ossos, present the artifacts and complete the ritual, it'll cause a surge in the light side. It'll help beat back the darkness, and everything will be great in the world, great in the universe. However, it's a double edge because if a Darksider takes these artifacts, and if a Darksider finishes the ritual, the darkness will become so deep that it will snuff out the light. Like there will be no way that the light side would be able to recover. And considering this is in the middle of the height of of Palpatine's empire. The dark side's already pretty, saturated as it is. So, so they've been going around collecting up the artifacts. Like I've had NPC deaths. I've had almost PC death. Like literally I had one character got bitten in half. by one of the on Mon Cal, the Krakens or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got bit in half, so he's now like half cybernetic. All this stuff has been happening, and I'd been developing a side thing with three of the characters because their backstories intertwined. I'd been developing the side thing, so they collect the last artifact. They have the last artifact. They know where the temple is. They've got Osos's location. They know where the temple is. They have everything ready to be able to to finish this, and they want to go and complete the side quest first. I was like, really? Why don't you go and save the galaxy? And then you can save your mother. And they're like, no, we want to save our mother first before saving. And of course, I am not a video game. I am not one of these where the world is static, while you're completing the side quests. No, because the Empire knows the location. The Empire knows they have all the artifacts too. So I was like, you're really going to do this? They're like, yes, there's nothing you or your NPCs can say is going to deter us from doing this. I was like, okay. So of course that added about 4 or 5 sessions more than I was expecting. And of course the Empire it was like, you know what? We know they're coming. Let's send a whole fleet. So now instead of like 1 or 2 Star Destroyers they may have had to have dealt with, they now have 12 and Vader and his Executor. So they had to come up with this whole plan. And of course, they're working for the Rebellion. And so the Rebellion's been kind of backing them, but they're like, no, we're going to do this side thing. And the Rebellion's like, you could save the galaxy literally in the next 10 hours. We're going to go do this other thing. So they're like, we may not be able to give you much support. But I role played out that they were able to at least get like a Mon Calamarian Star Cruiser. At least I think. Was it a Mon Cal? Yeah, I think I gave him a Mon Cal. Anyway, so instead of having to just because they've done some blockade running before, with a Star Destroyer or 2, so now they've got 12 to deal with, and of course they're having to come up with this plan of getting past them, getting down, and of course again the Empire is not static. There's 12 Star Destroyers. They've got 4 prefab garrison, 4 quick release garrisons down there. They're putting up a full garrison on the planet, and they've got the temple, under guarded. So not only did they have to get past the blockade, then they have to get down to the planet, and then they got to deal with the ground forces. So I'm just like, you all did this to yourselves. It's like, if you all die from this, you all got no one but yourselves to blame, because I told you all. And in fact, one time, one of the players, kind of texted me on the side. He's like, dude, I appreciate that your NPCs are trying to knock reason into these heads. It ain't going to work. I'm like, yeah, it ain't going to work, but I got to try. So I've got that game. They finally did the side quest thing. They've got their plan. They're ready to go. Literally, I've got 1 good session, maybe 2 left to finish this game. Mind you, this was supposed to be a quick campaign. This was supposed to be done months ago. But again, scheduling and side quest stuff. So I want everyone to be there for the finale. So last weekend, turns out it was one of my players' birthdays, and their family showed up kept them from gaming. So I was like, all right, unfortunately, game canceled because Jordan can't make it. That's when I realized that we will now have to delay the game 2 months. To November, because one of the other players is in the Army, and he just this weekend he just drove down to Georgia for 2 months for training, and he's not sure if he'll have internet access at any point in time during this training, so he might not even be able to Skype in, and we can finish it that way. So thanks to scheduling, I now have to wait another 2 months to be able to bring this game to a close, and we are literally right at the finale. So it's like, God damn it.
Happens every time, dude.
Yep.
Scheduled death, man.
Well, no, see, that's the thing, though. This game is not going to die. This game will finish. It's now been put on, life support in a coma. for 2 months. So, because I'm not ending this game when we're literally right at the finale. No, screw that.
That would suck.
Yeah, as I say, I am finishing. It's like the Epic game. I will finish the damn game. I don't care how long it takes. It's just that, we were right there at the at the precipice, and then pause. So that's kind of blown. I've still got my 2 Karma games going. Although one of them, I think, I don't know if we were recording when this happened. One of which has taken one game wasn't working out, so they decided to change what we were doing. Unfortunately, scheduling has been almost near death for that game. But the 2 Karma games are going pretty well. I actually started a Fate game with Liz and Miri because there was a character that Liz has not been doing a lot of gaming recently, at least tabletop wise. And honestly, I kind of miss that because, that's a big part of my life, and that's how we met. And, that used to be a big part of both of our lives, but she's been kind of drifting away from that some. So I was like, well, I want to at least do something with her. But there was this one character she mentioned we were driving, and she was like, I really wouldn't mind doing something with that character. I was like, name it. Yeah, I'll do it. So I came up with this Fate game, and we got Miriam involved in it too. So that's been going pretty well. That happens like every other week. And yeah, that's it. So I actually, although it seems, if you actually look at my schedule as to like when I've got games during the week, it seems like I have a lot. But unfortunately, like very rarely have I gone a full week where I've done all games, all the games because of scheduling and whatnot. So, so there's been that going on. I do have my D6 project, which is on kind of partial hold right at the moment because I felt like I needed a little bit of a break from it because trying to force myself to do something doesn't work too well, and I didn't really have too much motivation. It's not dead, but I was actually thinking about maybe picking it up some today after this. Yeah. That's dude. Glad I remembered this. So a couple weeks ago, the weekend of the 14th, so this would have been about 3 weeks ago, I was at Intervention. Okay. Internet Cultural Conventions in Rockville, Maryland.
As awesome as it is, I still think that's a crazy name for a psychologist. It always makes me a little worried.
Yeah, but see, that's actually kind of what makes it so cool because it sticks with you. Because, and everyone's, oh, yeah, I'm going to Intervention. And everyone thinks it's like, who's the Intervention for? What do they do? It's like, no, it's a convention. It's actually kind of its own talking point. So I think it's an awesome convention. And I honestly don't, I don't think Oni's going to change the name anytime soon. But Oni and Harknell are the organizers of it. They're the con-chairs. Oni, first and foremost, is just freaking awesome. I've interviewed her for Rho Pi before because we've been going to Intervention for the last, let's see, this was Intervention's 6th year. We've been going for the past 4 or 5. So Oni is just fucking awesome, and she's a gamer too. So apparently they had a death in their staff earlier this year. Close friend of Oni's, and he was involved, if not in charge, of their traditional games department. Dealing with their gaming room. And apparently Oni almost canceled the convention this year because of apparently unfortunately there have been a lot of deaths in her world. I think one of her parents or one of Harknell's parents or something died. Another friend died. She's been to 3 or 4 funerals this year alone. Not to mention, I know she got dropped from one job, although she's picked up an even better one. It's been a crazy year for her. and she almost canceled Intervention, but she was like, you know what, the friend that died, she was like, he wouldn't want me to do that. So we're gonna we're gonna have the convention, and they did a memorial and have named their gaming room after him. And I went to the memorial. So and it was, I'm fucking tearing up even as we speak. It was, wait, really? All right, where did I lose you?
There's a death. They're going to cancel.
Okay, so yeah, things have been crazy with Oni all year. And she decided, she's like, you know what, my friend wouldn't want me to cancel, so I'm gonna, I'm gonna have con. And they had a memorial scheduled and actually named their gaming room after him. And the memorial wasn't closed. Like it was in the schedule at the gaming room at like such and such time. I think it was on like Friday. And so I went because I've left Anime USA. I'm no longer working with AUSA and their traditional games department. But I pitched to help Oni and them with traditional games at Intervention, even at their new convention, Regeneration Who, if they wanted. I was just like, I've poked my head in the gaming room some, and I've done this and this, and I can do this and this. I didn't really hear anything back from them after I pitched the idea, which I found out was because of some changes in the structure of how they were doing Intervention, which is fine. But also Oni had posted a thing about, like, if you really want to, be a part of the convention, make sure you can bring something to the convention. I was like, usually when I'm at Intervention, I'm tied to Liz's table because I'm usually there for her. But this year I wasn't. So I was like, you know what? I'm actually going to spend quite a bit of time in the gaming room so I can get a really good feel, so I know exactly how I can hopefully make things better, or how I could help out, I guess is a better way to say it.
Yeah.
So and I was like, okay, they're doing this memorial and they're naming the gaming room after this guy. I want to go there to see what the heck is going on. And dude, like, I'm freaking tearing up again just talking about it. It was fucking amazing. Like, I've probably seen him at the convention. Like, I probably had seen him in the gaming room, but I didn't know him. I hadn't met him. I didn't know who the heck he was. And this brought me to tears. Because basically what it was it was his widow. And they're close friends. They had his ashes in an urn in the back table.
Wow.
Yeah. And they were just, and they're remembering their friend and fellow gamer and honoring him. And I just, again, I didn't even know the guy, and I was almost, and I was brought to tears, and I was really glad that not only that they did it, but that they allowed just, anyone to come, because then that allowed me to share in it. And apparently this guy was like writing his own campaign setting and whatnot for this one system, which they've given me the information for, and I'm going to be looking into it. And then throughout the rest of the con, his widow was continuing GMing the game that they had been doing for years, and continuing to expand the world that he had created. So, and I was blown away at that. And I even like tried walking up to her, and I couldn't even, I was just like, I didn't even know your husband, but just from one gamer to another. And I broke down, and we just, we hugged a couple of times. And then throughout the weekend, every time occasionally I just come over to her and just give her a hug, because like I said, I was spending a lot of time in the gaming room this year. So occasionally I just come over there and just give her a hug, and she just, say thanks. And then we went back to our games. So that was amazing.
Byron?
I even, yeah.
No, I I understand. For all the ones that we've lost, the names that will live in infamy, the memorials that we've had, I understand. It is
That's
the
right, because you've lost some people in your own groups.
yes,
Yeah. So
Dan, you know, the Dan was the most recent
this
one.
guy's yeah. This guy was Corey K. I believe it's pronounced Case, Kaese. So it was Corey Case. So to Corey, Dan, to all of them,
You will be remembered.
always. So, but also though, I corrupted 3 new souls.
Awesome.
Because they did have a couple of gaming panels at Intervention, one of which was an intro to tabletop gaming, and there was at least 2 people in there that outspoken said they were interested but never really had gotten into it. And of course, after the panel, I just turned to them because this was like a Friday night. After the panel, I turned to them. I was like, "Gaming room, 12 o'clock. Come find me. You will be gamers when I'm done with you." So I taught them Star Wars D6, my project version, although a very there were a couple of rules I threw out I didn't bother with because I had to be quick about it, A, and B, I didn't have all my material with me. So I was literally doing this all from memory. But they created characters. I taught them the system, ran them in an adventure. Unfortunately, it turned out to be a TPK.
Oh,
and I tried. It was the dice. The dice unfortunately had it in for them. They got shot out of the sky, but 2 of them loved it so much that on Sunday they came and found me again and talked me into running another one, another quick one shot. So that shows you how well I corrupted them. You also will not believe who I actually bumped into at Intervention. Blast from both of our pasts.
okay.
Out of all the list of all the people I would think that I might bump into at a convention, she was one of the last ones I was expecting. I bumped into Danny.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my God, how is she doing?
She is doing really well, actually. She actually had a table in the vendor's room, and I didn't bump into her until Sunday. I couldn't believe it because I was sitting there talking to, I think, Tangent Artist, who is some friends of ours from Intervention. And I was with her with Liz, talking with Tangent Artist, and I looked over and I was like, she looks familiar. And I kept I was staring at her. I'm glad she didn't get security or something. I was like, that fucker staring at me. But I was just staring her down. And I'm just like, I feel bad, but everyone knows I'm horrible with names. I feel bad because I was just like, Danny? Was it Danny? I almost couldn't remember her name. I was like, is that fucking Danny? I was like, screw it. I got to find out. Because I was just like, I really think it is. I'm like, guys, if you excuse me a second. And I walked by her table kind of nonchalantly, hoping I could see her name on her badge. And unfortunately, she had her badge flipped over, so I couldn't do it. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. So I walked up, and I was walking up smiling to her. She looked up. She kind of smiled. She was like, hey. And it took her almost a full minute before she recognized me. And she was just like, hey. And so we gave a hug, started catching up, whatnot. She was there with she does this Art Deco type stuff that she's starting. I think this was her first convention even that she was selling the stuff, and she was there. She had a friend helping with the table, but her husband was there. And of course I'm blanking on his name because I'm an idiot. So sorry guys, but he's a gamer as well. So I actually spent most of Sunday in the gaming room with him. We actually played a couple of hands of Magic to showed each other some decks and whatnot. And then when the 2 people that I'd corrupted on Saturday came back and talked me into another game, I taught the system to him real quick, made him a character, and he was involved in that one. So, but yeah, overall, Dana seems to be doing well. So,
awesome.
I've got her contact info. So yay. So yeah, so Intervention gaming wise was great. What were you saying?
I miss Danny.
I did too. So it was good to see her. Like I said, out of all the people I was expecting to maybe bump into at a convention, she was one of the last. And that's partially because she has been like deliberately under the radar for a while. So that's why, we haven't seen hide in her hair ever until then. But like I said, I've got her contact info now, so yay for that. So yeah, Intervention rocked. Gone over all my games. So yeah, I think I'm going to stop ranting at this point and move things right along. Unless you got anything else.
I have one thing, and then we need to go to our topic.
Okay. Well, then we need to decide our topic. But yes, go on.
Did I tell you about the compiled report book?
Don't think so.
So part of the Shinetar thing that I do is that, of course, I write reports for every game, and I post them online, and it's available on my Obsidian portal page. But as you know, with all the interconnected games, other people are writing reports about my game because they connect. So I collected every report connected with my game for the first year. All my reports that I wrote, all my players' reports, and all the reports from every other GM that wrote about a game, including the Rangers at Large and all the other ones. And I put them into a book, found an online publisher, and I published a book of all of my compiled reports.
Awesome.
For my first year, and I'll be doing it every year. So I will have an anthology of the entire Justice and Life Shinetar game for every year in volume.
And I still feel bad because I know I've got a report in there, and I was supposed to be more involved, and I haven't been. And I still feel bad about that. But
what contributions you have will be added to it.
Yeah, as to say, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what maybe we can, especially since you said after Dragon Con, your time will be a little bit more open. We'll have to see maybe what we can do about that.
Definitely.
So, but yeah, that's awesome. So I mean, it's nice to have like such a record of your stuff.
It is the thing that we've always dreamed about doing for every game we've ever done, and I've never been able to keep it going. I've tried it a couple times, but this time, by God, I did it.
Yep. Because even for like I wasn't doing it for the Epic game, but for the Star Wars game, I was trying to have everyone do a character journals. When I was doing the whole, you gain extra XP when you do it, and it started good in the beginning, and then it kind of tapered off there. It's tapered off there at the end. So, but rock on, man.
Thank you.
So, all right. So, topic for today. You've got three choices. I've collected three articles. Well, I've collected a bunch of articles, but these three I figured would be good. I'm still freaking adjusting from the emotional surge about that damn memorial. All right. So I figured, one of these three would be good. So there's an article on player advice, 10 dungeon delving tips for beginners. Because, I mean, the whole reason why we started Rho Pi was to help tips and beginning players and GMs and whatnot. So give me just a second here. Sorry, text from wife.
I understand. I'm probably getting one of those too.
So, yeah, actually, she was texting like, "Are you still recording?" I'm like, "Yes." Why? Probably she won't make so much noise when she comes in. So, yeah, we got player advice, 10 dungeon delving tips for beginners. We've got D&D 10 sins of players. And then the surprising benefits of role-playing games and how to get started. So you pick which one.
Well, I really like the surprise benefits of gaming, but 10 sins, is this an article?
Yeah, and I'll link it when we post.
Let's do the 10 sins. I want to see this 10 sins.
Okay. All right, so 10 sins. Here we go. Actually, you know what? Let me link it to you real quick so you can follow along. Here you go, sir. In the Hangout chat. All right. So there's no real intro. I mean, the article pretty much just gets right into it. So slavish role playing, number one. Slavish role playing. There is inherent in D&D and other paper pencil RPGs a social gaming contract. That is to say that we're gathered at the table in the spirit of teamwork. Though inter-party conflict can be rewarding, woven into the tapestry of the game is the idea that each player member serves a distinct purpose or purposes. Each of us is a valid member of the team, and none of us can do this on our own. I understand that a DM may be asking you to respond, asking you to suspend your disbelief here. And it goes on. I'm not going to read the whole bloody thing. But basically, because it talks about, join them. I just met these people 20 minutes ago type of thing. So it kind of goes with the whole, credence that I've developed since the one fateful Star Wars game I had down in North Carolina, whereas sometimes you do have to sacrifice something of your character or something of your role playing for group cohesion. The whole no, my character wouldn't do that. I'm not going to do this because my character wouldn't do this. And yes, I realize it's going to tear the group apart, but screw you because I'm playing my character accurately. Sometimes you need to kind of put that aside,
Yes.
Okay, I was trying to say, have I lost you again? So, thoughts.
See, the thing is, okay, no, with this, what I run into is I have some players, and I've had some, they play their characters, and they refuse to go along with the party because it wouldn't be in the... I'm playing my character, and I refuse to go along with the party because this is my character. And I have some people, and I've had some guys that have ruined games because they want to build these really unique, they call them characters, that have these very, very strong views on everything. And then when it comes to a party mission, they refuse to do anything or go along with the party. They always have to have their way, or they refuse to agree to anything because that's my character. And it drives me insane. And they always fall back on the trope of, well, I'm just playing my character. Well, if you're playing your character and your character refuses to do anything that the party wants to do, screw your character. You're not doing this right. Sometimes you have to bend your characters. Sometimes you have to adjust your character's viewpoint to go along with the party if you are always in conflict.
Yeah. And sometimes that may just be you just have to find a different character.
Yes.
Now, thankfully, I've had I've done that. And I'm thankful I've had some players do that as well, where I was just like, you know what, this character is not working out with this group. I've been in games where that's happened too. Where the character, the player was just like, this is what my character would do. He's walking away. And then looks to the GM and is like, you and I need to work on me creating another character for this game because this character's done. There's been sometimes where I've been like, you know what, I'm putting this character down because he's not fitting with this group, he's not fitting with this game. I'll come up with something different.
Of course, that takes an incredible amount of maturity in gaming that unfortunately
not all players have.
Not all players have. So,
they do mention, maybe there isn't a monetary reward here to tempt your character, so be proactive and find a rewarding way to meet the other players halfway. Maybe your rogue notices that the maiden's father is a wealthy diplomat and he likes the idea of cashing in on his debt later. Maybe the boost in his reputation will result in more lucrative contacts, something, anything. So, either try to, it's actually very interesting. I remember that this got brought up before. It's very interesting that a game that pretty much specifically relies on social action would be favored by a group of people that are most socially inept, at least as viewed by the grand scheme of things. So, but you have to realize that it's something that we've always been saying in the terms of, if you don't like the player, just ask them to leave. If you're the GM and you've got a trouble player, try talking to them about it, or worst case scenario, kick them out of the game.
Yeah.
Or if you don't like the GM, find another game or start another game, something, nothing saying you have to be there. Granted, some people might argue that because we do know some people that this is the only group I have and I can't get into any other gamings because of this, and this. And I'm like, well, I'm really sorry about that. But so, I mean, try to, you're in it together. It is a group thing. Yes, the GM should try to make sure that each player has a little spotlight, does get their time in center stage, but work with the group and work with the GM on that. Don't force it.
Yes.
So, yay. Okay. Number 2. Unless you got anything else on number 1.
Just that, like I said, just that it requires some maturity, and also, I'm not asking people to betray their closely held beliefs as far as being a method actor, a method role player. Just try to work with a GM, but remember, out of game conversation, try to always have it step outside, and GMs, if a player's having trouble, call a 5-minute bathroom break, 5-minute smoke break, step outside and have a conversation, because it can be very jarring for a player to be refuse to cooperate, and then all of a sudden be like, well, screw it, all right, fine, I'll just go with it, and then just completely abandon closely held beliefs. Try to, as Byron said, try to make it a part of role playing. Maybe, that you and the GM step outside and the GM's like, look, I understand this might not be, totally in keeping with your character, but have you considered this option? And then later on, you can try to role play that in. And this is an opportunity for great role playing, because sometimes the paladin goes along with something that may be a little shady, and you're wondering, why is the paladin going along with it? Maybe the paladin has a good reason for doing so.
Yeah. And I think also, I just thought of this too. It's also not just necessarily a sense of maturity. Some people do have issues with bringing something out in the open or to someone's attention because they don't like being confrontational. I know a bunch of people like this, and I'll even admit I suffer from this too, because I have had some trouble players before, and though I try to deal with it in game, there's sometimes I'm a little sketchy about bringing it to their attention, because I'm like, I don't want to start a fight. And sometimes I've been like, if I bring this up, it's going to start a fight. So, I'll even admit I'm guilty of not dealing with something the way I probably should. And it's something I'm trying to work on, but so there's that too. So, and that's why I try to be like, look, I try to be with other people. It's like, look, if you have a problem with me, I tell people how to bring it up to me. And sometimes they still don't even do it. So, just try to be as diplomatic as possible with it, but it does help best to deal with problems like that before they fester and get out of hand. Because if you keep it bottled up inside, no one's going to fucking know until you explode, and then the game's done. So, because Lord knows I've had that happen too. So, all right. Ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Number 2, distracting behavior. Oh, good. The article says, believe it or not, the other PCs are picking up on your behavioral clues from you at the table. They're picking them up from the DM at the table as well. If they find you checking out, starting OC, side conversations, wandering into the rooms of the house, you're giving them permission to do the same. It is difficult to maintain the atmosphere. I am very guilty of this myself. I'll fully admit it. Some of my players are very guilty of it as well. Especially when you're doing online gaming, because it's very easy to get distracted when you're online gaming over being gaming at an actual table in person. But even that, and even like sometimes, even when it's kind of like, almost in character sometimes, those times like you'll have like a very, the tension's high, a very poignant moment, and then someone will just say some offhand comment that just breaks everything.
And there are players who do that on purpose. Yeah.
Now, if it just off the cuff, okay. I get annoyed with it sometimes, but I understand that sometimes you do need a tension breaker, and it's very hard to build that tension back up to complete the scene, because the scene is very rarely, completed when that happens. But I would definitely toss that into this, category as well. I try, again, I don't always succeed, but when I'm playing in someone's game, I try very hard to, if I'm going to be doing anything when it's like not my turn or anything, it's still game related. I might be on a computer because that's where my character sheet is. I'm going to be sitting there reviewing my character sheet. I'm going to sit there and review rules. I'm going to be looking up spells that, I may want to cast for the next round, so I can try to figure out what I want to do. I don't always succeed, but I try to keep what I'm doing at least gaming related, if not related to that, to the game I'm in. And I'm actually pretty good about still hearing and picking up what other people are saying and still what's going on in the games. I've had some players that can't even do that. And they claim that, like, they need to have something else to keep their interest. And I'm like, well, then what do you think the game is? And they're like, well, it's not my turn. I zone out and get bored. I'm saying, yeah. And then when I call for a roll, I have to get I have to say your name 3 or 4 times to get your attention. Or I call for a roll and everyone's rolling, and then you're like, what's going on? What am I doing? I'm like, you need to pay attention. What was that one guy that you had in the one convention?
Yes.
The what method that we called it, or he called it something. What was it called? I don't remember the name.
I thought it was Trey. It's actually Shay. It is Shay.
The Shay method. The Shay method. That is a perfect example of fighting number 2 here, the distracting behavior.
Yes. So I have, let me put it this way. As my group has gotten bigger to like 7 or 8, I have actually found, I kind of like to, I love snarky comments, and I really love to get involved in the byplay and the blow by blows, and you know it as well as I do, and I have actually broken your game with the omnomnom, the omnomnivore,
the omnomnivore, yeah,
the omnomnivore.
I almost forgot about that.
But I have learned as a GM that I have a job, and I'm not saying I'm not casting aspersions to anyone else. I'm not saying anyone's GM style isn't good. I'm not saying that GM shouldn't have fun with other players. But what I've found is that I set the pace. It's my job to keep the game in on track. And the truth of the matter is that, and it really also depends on the type of game I'm running. Lighter games I let go, but when it comes to my epic games, my Shine Tower Justice Life game, last night's game, it's up to the GM. It's up to me to hold the line. And basically that's and the party whip. And sometimes it makes me kind of a dick. And I try to be, and GMs try to be nice about this. Don't just crack on players every time, otherwise no one's having fun. And it's part of experience. It's part of, learning your players and learning the game to know how far you can let them go before they completely lose focus. But I have learned, and actually it's really funny. I hadn't really thought about this, but it's sort of something that I'd kind of learned on my own, and it's not a conscious decision I guess I ever made, but I have begun to rein in my players more, if that makes any sense. Like, because when I was a young immature GM, I sort of let things just go. And back in high school, dude, we just let shit go all the time. I mean, hell, half the
I
game's
still
laughing.
I still don't understand how the hell we got anything done back in high school.
Right.
Because we only had an hour each night to game, and that's not taking into account the time it took to go from the mess hall up to your room, grab your shit, get up into the room, and then get started, and then you had to end to get back down to your room to get ready for study hall. I don't understand how we got anything done. I really don't.
I don't.
Because I could not do that shit now. I really couldn't. No. I need at least 2 to 4 hours.
Me too. But what I'm saying for GMs is that, and what I do for myself is I make a commitment that I'm going to get a certain amount done. And as the game goes, I allow a certain amount of diversion, but I always rein it back in. I will say this though, this is so funny that you should say this. I kind of did a dick move, and I need to, and if my players ever listen to me, I need to apologize for this because I was a little pissy.
What'd you do?
I had a moment. So I had one of my gamers call. I had one gamer call in and say, "Look, I've got to be back at my house by 1 a.m. and I have like 30 to 45 minute drive, which meant 12:15 the game has to end. I have to be out." I'm like, "Okay, fine." And then another guy's like, "Look, I got to be at work at like 6 o'clock and I got to get up before then. So 15 minutes before. So like you have to, I need to be done by 12." So I'm like, "All right, 12 is my hard cutoff. Done." And I'm like, "Okay." So we get to the game. And one of the guys who had to leave early, his work, he had to show up late, so he didn't get there until like 8 o'clock. And then those two guys went out to smoke. So it's like 8:30. I have till midnight, and they're out smoking. So I excused myself from the table. I walked outside and I said, "All right, guys, here's the deal. You two have to leave early. You said that I have to be hard cut off at 12, which means I have to end at 11:30. It is approaching 9 o'clock. 9, 10, 11:30. That's 2.5 hours of gaming, tops. You guys sit out here and smoke all you want." And I walked inside. GMs, and I'm talking to you. Sometimes, and yes, this was kind of a hissy fit, but sometimes you just have to put it in terms that players can understand.
Yeah, so you do have to sometimes just spell it the fuck out.
Because a lot of times players don't realize, and a lot of times GMs don't realize how little time we have to game. Because Byron made a very good point. We had an hour of free time. It took us 15 minutes to get up and get our shit together, and like 5-10 minutes to get our shit down, which left us like less than half an hour of gaming. It's a miracle we got anything done. And sometimes you need to.
I honestly think it was because of the fact that we did it 4 or 5 nights out of the week.
Yes,
because it was every night. So it wasn't like one time a week, where you had the whole week to forget things. I mean, we were doing it every night. I think that's the only way that we got shit done, because we didn't have to recap a whole lot because it was just the last night. I think that's the only way we got it, but sorry. Go.
No, you're right. No, and I agree. And I was thinking the same thing when you were talking about it. But the thing about it is, as GMs, sometimes you need to talk to your players in terms they can understand time-wise. You'd be like, "Look, you guys arrived at 8 o'clock and you bullshitted for an hour. It's 9 o'clock. We all have to leave at 12. That's 3 hours. Every time you get off on a tangent, it's funny, but if you take 10 to 15 minutes on a tangent, that 3 hour time crunch goes to 2:45, 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 50 minutes, it goes fast. And I am trying to tell a compelling story. So the question is do y'all want, and I've actually done this before. I'm like, "Look, guys, do y'all want to sit around and laugh and joke? I'm cool with that. Or do y'all want to play?" And I'm not trying to be a dick about it, but we need to have a decision now, because I don't want you coming back to me later on being like, "Wow, your game sucked because we don't get anything done." With that said, now I'm talking to the players. Gaming is social. I understand that. We're out here to have fun. I want you to have fun. Your GM wants you to have fun. Byron wants you to have fun. Your other players want you to have fun. But You're there to
I
do
love
a
how you
job.
put me in there. So Byron wants you to have fun. Well, yes, I do.
Byron, when you think about this tonight, when you're asleep, Byron is wanting you to have as much fun as possible. If that doesn't keep you up at night, nothing will. But
Make me out to be like ceiling cat or something here. Gee, thanks.
total ceiling cat. But here's the thing. You're also there to do something. You're there for a function. It's like, you know, if you're there to play, it's like a sports team. Yeah, you're there to have fun and joke around, but you still got to get out and play the damn game. So try to keep your and I have people in my games, I'm not naming names, who always have to play the comic character, and they have to make comic relief no matter what the situation is, and that drives me insane. But there it is. If it's a serious moment, be a serious moment. If you're going to cut up and have a good time, cut up and have a good time. But remember, you know, remember to be like, all right, guys, that was really funny, but let's get back to game. And be a party whip. Even if you're a player, help your GM out.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Especially considering sometimes it is the GM that does it. where I'm guilty of that, because if I get and unfortunately this comes into play into the podcast itself. I have this mentality of, once I get an idea, or once I get, you know, something that I need or want to say, I really feel like I need to get it out there as soon as possible. Because oftentimes if I wait until an opening, the conversation has already changed, and then therefore what I have to say is meaningless. And unfortunately, that's one of the reasons why I tend to interrupt people like you in the podcast, like I did earlier, because as soon as I have the idea, I need to say it and I need to get it out there. And I apologize for that. I have been called on that before. But unfortunately, it happens in gaming too. If I get the idea of like, oh, this reminds me of a great story from RMA, I feel like I need to sit there and tell it, even when I'm GMing. So I am guilty of this too, and I try not to. Sometimes I'll just like, oh yeah, that reminds me of a great thing. And I'll look at someone's like, remind me to tell me this or our next break, because we need to keep going.
Yes.
You know, or sometimes I'll just sit there, I'll just kind of laugh. And everyone will be like, what the hell are you laughing at? I'm like, don't worry about it. Game. Yeah, let's get back to game. All right, let's get back to game. So sometimes you just have to let the thought go. You just can't let it out, because it's going to derail things even more. And I'm guilty of it even as GM. And even when I'm GMing online, I'm sometimes bad about it. Like, even when I'm GMing, I'll get distracted and I'll start doing something else and not keeping an eye on the game like I should. So it's not just the players, the GMs can be doing this too. And as always, we state we're not, you know, Howard and I aren't saints. You know, the reason why we're good at this is because of the fact of, well, we fuck up too.
Yes.
So, and I apologize for interrupting you, dude.
No, you're right. And truth be told, it was really funny. Is last weekend, one of my players mentioned some story that I was talking about, and I had because they said something, and I mentioned that I had a story about that, and then I say, look, remind me after game. And they're like, okay. And I'm like, remind me, because I don't want you to leave here without hearing this. It's important. And that's what ended up happening. We broke down the game. Yeah. And before 11, like, if you want to hear the story, I'll happy to tell you. And a couple people did, but a couple people was like, I got to get out of here. GTFO. Yeah. I got to go.
And I love, sometimes I've been like, remind me of that later. And then at the end of game, and game was so good, at the end of game, they're like, hey, what about that story? And I'm like, what story?
Yes.
They're like, the one about I'm like, what are you talking about? What? Shit, I forgot. Okay, yeah, there we go. So, but you know, hey, sometimes if that happens, that happens. But you know, try to keep the game going. Try to stay focused. Try to keep the atmosphere. Yes, you're in there to have fun, but so is everyone else. It is not just you. It is the group. So, okay, ready to move on?
Heck yeah.
Okay. So, number 3, fudging numbers. Oh, dear God. I'm opening with that one. Just, oh, dear God. And I love how this guy starts off the paragraph about this one. He's like, okay, let's get a few things straight. Someone, all in caps, someone knows you're fudging the numbers. And he's mentioned it to the others. Isn't that a nasty feeling? Yeah, fudging numbers is bad. Yes, you want your character to succeed at what they're doing. Yes, you want to feel like you're accomplishing stuff. Yes, sometimes the dice fucking hate you. Unfortunately, I've had entire games where that's happened. And I've got a couple of players that are notoriously bad. You know, they're great role players. The dice hate them.
Yeah.
Let the dice... As much as I might actually argue against this to an extent, let the dice roll how they may. And I say that because I actually had one game, I almost had a player rage quit because the dice were so bad. He just could not nail a roll. And unfortunately, we were we're gaming online, so everyone could see the dice roll. There was nothing I could do. And I hated it because I didn't want him to quit. I wanted him to have fun. I wanted him to enjoy the game. But just and you know, the GM is in control of the game, but even we have our limits. You know, we cannot change physics. It'd be cool if we did, but we cannot change real world physics, and so therefore we cannot deal. Yeah, we can't do anything if the dice roll really bad. But that's not to say that we can't control how the outcome of that roll is dealt with. Players too. So let the dice roll how they may. Because I mean, it mentions in the article, if you're starting to fudge your dice, the GM is going to start fudging his dice, and it's going to spiral, and things are just going to get, you know, because like if you're constantly rolling nat 20s, then the GM is going to start throwing stuff that is going to deal with that, and it's going to suck for the rest of the group. On the flip side, though, and I have had players admit that they do this sometimes, and it annoys the hell out of me, is that some players will fudge their rolls for, you know, to the negative side. You know, so, you know, a lot of players, you know, fudge their rolls so that it's, you know, they're you know, they get the better rolls. But I have had some players fudge their rolls to make them bad. And it's like, you don't need to do that either. Trust me, if the GM is doing his job, he's going to make life hell for your characters. And I think I've lost Howard. But I'm going to keep going. Fuck it. So fudging rolls. Welcome back. So what basically what you missed was, you know, you got people fudging your rolls to constantly get the good rolls, but I have also had players fudge their rolls to get bad rolls.
Yes, I have.
Bad stuff happen. It's like, you don't need to do that. If the GM is doing his job, he's got to fuck your characters up well and good. You know, you don't need to. It's bad to fudge the rolls for good. You know, to constantly get the good stuff, so you know nothing bad happens to your character. You don't need to be fudging your rolls for bad shit to be constantly happening to your character either.
I agree. I've had players that did that. As far as fudging the rolls, look, I'm pretty sure that I have it happening in all of my games, to an extent. Actually,
I'll admit I've done it.
Yeah, me too. Everyone has. You there?
Yeah.
All right, you're breaking up a second. So either for good or ill. Actually, it's really funny. Is in my two big games, I think I have some people, at least one or two, fudging good in one, and at least one or two fudging bad in the other. Funny you should mention that. Because I even brought that up in one of my games. And I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna talk to them tonight before we run our game. And I talk to them and be like, look, guys, you know, I understand you don't want to. I understand you don't want to suck, but I need people to be honest with me. So, you know, because I can role play it. I'm not here to kill you, but I really do. I think I'm gonna have a come to Jesus talk with them before tonight's game, because I think I've had some hinky stuff happen. Really funny you should bring this up, because the last game I had some really hinky stuff happening. I was like, I kind of, but it just like in the thing says, I can't exactly prove it, but I'm going to have people, because one of the really big things is people who roll their dice and then quickly put their hands over it. Have you ever noticed that?
Oh yeah.
So I'm gonna have to tell people to roll it and then let it lie, to give me a chance to see it. So roll it, and I'll be like, hey, before you do anything, let me see it before you do anything. I'm definitely gonna have to enact that rule.
And it's actually one of the reasons why I sometimes don't like dice rolling apps.
Yes,
especially at tabletop, because somebody just be like, such and such, and I was like, well, let me see it. It's like, oh, I already switched over or something, or people have got dice, quote unquote dice rollers that they've programmed into like a spreadsheet because they've got their characters in spreadsheets. Now, granted, sometimes it is just the way it is. Case in point, my Star Wars game with the Lucky 13 group. Holy cow, do they roll sixes on the wild?
Yeah.
All the freaking time. And sometimes I've been like, really? I'm like, really? Is that really what's happening? But most of them use their, I think myself and one of the other players are the only ones that actually physically roll dice. Everyone else uses a program of some shape, way, or fashion. So I can't really, police it. But so I have to kind of deal with it. But I'm just like, with that, it just seems with that group, it just, they very rarely will roll ones on the wild. It always seems to be sixes. And then there are sometimes it's like there's one character, I don't keep tabs. I try not to micromanage. I don't keep really hard tabs as to how they're enhancing their, how they're advancing their character. And then I call for a roll, and then everyone's 15, 12, 18, 42. What?
Yeah.
It's like how many D do you have in that skill? So it and unfortunately it is hard to prove. It is hard to be like, I know you're fucking lying, but just try not. And like I said, I'll fully admit I'm guilty of it sometimes too. However, I try not to do it either too often, or I try not to. I only try to do it on more trivial stuff.
Yeah,
I try not to do it on poignant stuff, and I try not to do it in combat if I can help it. Because sometimes I'll be like, I'll roll it, and it'll be a 2, and we're in a fight, and I'll be like, yeah, okay, I missed. Or sometimes I might be like, yeah, I might roll it again if I can hide it, and be like, yeah, okay, I got a 15, woohoo. And then I'll roll and if I do that, if I roll shitty on my damage, then that's it. I'll just be like, yeah, I hit, and I do 2 points of damage. Frack me. So I mean, I'll admit I do fudge at times. I try not to make a habit out of it. I try to, and if it's something very poignant of role playing too, I let the dice roll. I was like, if I'm not making this, I'm not making it. Fine. And sometimes as a GM, I feel kind of bad for some of my players where, sometimes they're again, that one game where one of the Karma games just, it was Ben, actually, you just met earlier this morning. He just had a bad night. He just could not roll. I don't think he rolled above a 5 on a D20, all night. And I felt really bad for him, but there, in some cases as a GM, especially in combat, there was really nothing I could do. But I remember at one point in time, because in my world, if you pray to the gods, I actually roll a percentile to see if they answer directly. And I remember one time he did, and I was just like, you get a plus 5 to all of your rolls for the next session. Dude, come on. So, but now on the flip side of this though, GMs fudge dice, fudge rolls.
Yes, I was going to say that.
It's in the job description.
I was literally going to say that.
So, well, then take it away.
So, I fudge all the time, and here's, and I will tell you why. And I fudge both ways though. I ramp up my NPCs up or down, and here's why. I do it for a couple of reasons. One, I do it to add suspense. I do it so that the challenge is difficult, because sometimes I roll roast. Last night I rolled so sucky. So on a couple things I had to ramp up the difficulty. Otherwise it wasn't fun for the players. I also sometimes ramp down if for whatever reason I am just acing everything. I am just blowing everything up. I'm just hitting everything on the wild die. six on the wild dice, sometimes I will ramp it down because I don't want to TPK. I also don't want to totally nuke people.
Yeah.
I'm for a particular game, I am aiming for a particular lethality. And I rolled and I roll dice, and for a lot of them, I just let it go. But for certain things, especially major NPCs, major encounters, if I can feel that the game is slipping either too lethal or too easy, I will fudge in order to maintain a certain suspense, a certain excitement level. And it is necessary. For a GM, it is necessary. It is also necessary for GMs to understand when you should make it more difficult and when you should make it less. Because I do it about 50-50. Literally, for me, it is in any game, I'm about 50-50, helping the players, hurting the players.
Yep.
GMs who always screw over players, screw you. GMs who...
Well, you can't let the players walk all over you either. But
no, but GMs who are always trying to make you basically nerfing everything so their players just mow through it. That may be great. It may be fun for players, and it's going to be fun for a few sessions. But after a while, the players why even bother if there's no chance of failure?
Yeah.
So
well, and the players will start getting used to it and expect it. And when you start throwing something hard at them, they'll be they'll start whining.
Yes. So what I'm saying is, for players, don't fudge. Just resist the urge. For GMs or for players,
leave it to the GMs,
yes.
or try to be creative about it.
Yes.
As for the GMs, yes, do it, but be smart about it.
Yes.
So, and see, I actually had a thought I had somewhere in there, and I forgot about it. So, oh well. I had something else to add when you were going on, but I don't remember it now. So, no, it's okay. Whatever. I'm just gonna let it go. So, all right. Moving on. Number 4, sabotaging the party. Oh boy.
Yeah.
You've been arguing in front of the bandits' guard post for 45 minutes, hidden in the bush. Finally, the bard decides he's had enough. Really, the player decides he's had enough. And he walks out into the open. He knocks on the rough wooden gate, and it says in quotes, Devron Swashbuckle, at your service. You savages ordered delivery? Open the door. It's arrived. You know how it ends. The gate opens, chaos ensues, and the bandits flood from the guard post and swarm the bard. Carefully laid plans disintegrate as priority number 1 becomes protect him. In the right context, it'll be a memorial scene and rewarding to one. And a rewarding one. Work on picking up on cues from fellow party members, expressing your character's impatience, blah, 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 blah. Again, I'm not going to try to read the whole thing. But basically, I've had people do this too. And it's always annoying as hell. I can think of 2 instances, once where I was a player and once where I was a GM. Where it's happened, where it's just been like, dude, what the fuck? The time I was a player, it was actually at RMA. And we were doing a D&D game. I think I was playing a bard. And I wasn't able to be at a couple of sessions because we were coming up on because of a project I had or something, or we were coming up on exams. I don't remember which. So I actually, literally, I'd be sitting there working, and someone would come to my door and be like, "Hey, you're now level such and such, and you have these magic items," and they'd walk away. I'd be like, "What the? Okay," because I told the GM to just NPC my character while I was away. And the first session back, I was like, I finally got the project done. I bet we were playing, and I'm like, I'm back, yay! And we were going through this thing, and it was one of these. It was a module that I think was one of the starts of Ravenloft. It was basically we were going to this haunted mansion, and the ghost haunting the mansion was ha ha ha, you're now stuck here. You have to sacrifice one of the members of your party for my experiments, and I'll let the rest go. Well, our party was he's like, and you have 24 hours to decide. So of course our party was like, we need to find this freaking ghost and take care of him within 24 hours because we're not sacrificing anyone. And the rest of the group was like, yeah, let's go. Well, in one of the rooms, you find a cleric who he was the one his group had picked. Which, of course, my first thought was like, who the fuck gets rid of the healer?
Yeah, right.
But the cleric had this special candle he had gotten from his church. So long as the candle was lit, he was protected from evil spirits. So he was staying in the room and the candle was like, it was a magic candle. I don't think it burned out. It could be blown out, but it didn't like burn itself out. And so he was basically that was the module's version of a save point. It was a safe place to go in the mansion, because so long as you were in the light of the candle, you were protected from any of the evil of the place. And the cleric had been there a while, so he had information about the place that he could tell you. So we find the cleric, and we're getting information, and then our thief kind of, I think it was Markendorf.
Oh, jeez.
and he, you could see the twinkle in his eye when he got the idea, and I'm just like, oh hell, what now? So he looks to the GM, and he's like, so it's a candle, right? He's like, yeah. He's like, we were sitting there talking with the cleric, getting information, kind of resting up. And he's like, so we could say that the cleric is kind of part of our party now, right? And the GM was like, yeah, I guess. And he's like, I blow out the candle. And all of us were all like, wait, what? And the GM was like, all right, you blow out the candle. The cleric disappears. The spirit laughs. The house disappears. You're all fine. And most of us were praising Markendorf. I mean, like, literally, we completely derailed the module, but the GM was kind of cool with that. Or at least so we thought. So, we were all like, Markendorf, that's great, because we didn't have to sacrifice anyone in the party. We succeeded. And we were just like, Markendorf, that was a great idea, wonderful. Well, the paladin in the group had another thought. He didn't really like Markendorf for doing that. And we had all been given a wish spell prior. I had already used mine. I got some magic items I was hunting down. I was wanting. And so the paladin, this is the sabotaging play. The paladin stands up, points at Markendorf, and is like, I wish that he never existed.
What?
Yeah. That was his wording. I wish that he never existed. And all of us were all like, yeah, that was a great idea. What are we going to do next? You what? Like, all of us look at, what the hell? Now, as it turns out, the GM was kind of wanting to wrap the game up. So he used that as the catalyst to be able to wrap the game up. I hadn't been able to play for like a couple of weeks. And this was my first game back. And I had really been wanting to play.
Dude.
So basically what the GM did was he threw the paladin. Now, granted, the character did get his just reward. He sent the paladin to the 9th level of hell.
Nice.
For making such a wish. He sent Markendorf's character to limbo. And then I think he banished all of us to like either some level of the abyss, or we were in like the astral plane or something. I don't remember what. But because like before he did that though, I was sitting there because of course I was I was already a GM at this point myself. So of course I started thinking as to just how the GM could word that, because again, the mark of any good GM is how to deal with a wish spell. And he wasn't very literally his wording was, I wish that Markendorf's character never existed. And of course, in my mind, started thinking as to just how the GM could interpret that. So, like, I was going on the lines like, well, he's a thief. He could say, okay, Markendorf's character no longer existed. What if he expands that to be like, okay, rogues no longer exist. Thieves no longer. I have thieving skills. So I'm like, great, I am about to. And just my brain was just going a mile a minute. And then the GM was like, okay, blah. And like all of us, as we were packing up our character sheets, we're like, dude, we know what room you live in. We know where you sleep. Lock your door. Because like we were all threatening to freaking come in and ask for that. And I completely forgot the example I had as a GM. So I'm going to toss things to you while I try to.
So, oh my God, sabotaging the party. We had I'm not going to call him out on this because he still thinks it's hilarious. Brian, we were doing a Pathfinder game at Taiki's, and we had this guy. There's bandits. We knew the bandit ambush was ahead. We came out with this elaborate plan how we were going to provoke them into it, and we were going to turn the tables. Blah blah blah. And while we were planning, Brian, who always likes to play the comic character, who was playing a monk at the time, the monk of the super abs. I mean, he could even play the character seriously. Decided to Leroy Jenkins, and he did. God. And we ended up winning, primarily because he took most of the fire himself and got himself beat all to hell, and we were able to sort of sweep in. We pretty much used him as bait. But the thing about it was we had a good plan. What?
He became the meat shield.
We had a good plan. We were all ready to go with it. We'd all agreed to do it when one character decides just to Leroy Jenkins and screw us.
I remember now. Okay, good. Continue.
And I personally I wasn't even running it. I was just playing it. My thief couldn't care less. But I got to be honest with you, like as a player, because the guy who came up with the plan was really proud of himself, and like he put a lot of thought into it, and then he got screwed. Totally got screwed. Yep. And it just, I don't know. It really bothered me on his behalf. And, it worked out in the end, blah, 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 blah. But I don't think, and he mentions even to this day, and I think it really, as a player. So one player just decided for comic relief to just crap all over another player's contribution and pretty much ruined the game for another player. Yeah, Brian had a great time. He got to play super abs and do all his crap. And the rest of us, as far as I was concerned, for me and my character, it was kind of 6 1 half dozen the other. But right. For the guy who really, really put his time and energy into creating the plan, because he was the tactician of the group, he got screwed. And that's the thing. Yeah, sabotage the party may be fun for you, and God, yes, I cannot stand Shadowrun. 3 sessions just to plan a simple run, and trust me, my wife has actually suggested I do just this. She's actually suggested that I come up with a plan for Shadowrun while my friends are picking it apart for 2.5, 3 hours. I just do the run myself, and then get back and have it done by the time they get done with planning, which I could do, and I've thought about doing it on occasion. But the truth of the matter is. It's a group activity, and even if people are spending way too much time planning, if you have a group like that, I would suggest either talk to the GM about it or picking a different group. But don't screw your party over.
Yeah, and I have to almost play a little bit devil's advocate with that, just in the sense of. I am very happy when my group plans things out. Because I have been in games where people are just like, let's just go. No planning, no forethought, and then they wonder why they get their asses beat.
Yeah.
Or why it's a TPK, or I've been a player in groups who's like, guys, we really need to think this out. It's like, nah, we just go in, we beat the face, we get the treasure, we get the girl, and we get the win. And I'm like, no. And then, we proceed to get our asses handed to us. And I'm like, yeah, guys, come on. So I'm really happy when a group plans. And actually, I kind of reward, because if a group really puts a lot of thought and planning into an attack or a defense of some way, shape, or fashion, pretty much I reward by the sense of it pretty much goes how they planned. So long as I do have roles involved, and so long as the roles are good. I let the dice be the judge, I guess, is, more of just like, ha ha ha, I now know their plan, so I'm going to screw it up. I try not to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm happy when a group plans. However, if they plan and then someone screws something up, yeah, fuck them.
Yeah.
And I actually remembered my example, and it actually plays out just like that. I was running. It was actually one of the first Star Wars games I was running at Neverland when we moved up to this neck of the woods up here in Pennsylvania. They were trying to infiltrate a hidden Imperial facility, and they realized that they decided that the way they were going to do it would be because there were, it was disguised as an office building. So there were, of course, shipments of office supplies and so forth that came in on a regular basis. They were on a timetable too. So they had to pick one way and go with it. So they decided that they were going to hijack one of these shipment runs and like hide in the cargo, I think it was. So they went out and got these uniforms and bought these supplies because they knew the route that the supplies usually take. And they set up a roadblock to stop the truck, stun the guys, and then to get in the cargo and whatnot. So because they needed them alive, because they needed them to go. I think maybe I don't remember if the player characters were going to replace the delivery guys or not. I don't remember, or if they were all just going to be hiding in the cargo. I don't remember that part. But regardless, they had this plan. They were in the middle of executing it. Then one of the players just looks at me and goes, "I shoot the driver." And I looked at him. I was like, "What?" He's like, he was playing a sniper. He's like, "I shoot the driver." I'm like, and he said it to where the rest of the group didn't really hear him. And I made sure the rest of the group was like, "You're telling me you want to shoot the driver?" And everyone else was like, "Wait, what? Who's wanting to do that?" And I knew, and the rest of the group knew. I was like, I actually had to explain it out to him because I didn't let him do it. I think I did let him do it until he realized how much of a colossal fuck up it was, and then we rewind and retconned. But I pretty much explained out, dude, if you shoot the driver, his partner's going to get spooked. His partner's going to pull his buddy aside, get into the driver's seat, and drive the fuck away. So that means this entire plan is going to go down the shitter. It's going to go down the toilet. And you're not going to be able to, and you don't have time to try to do one of the other entry things because of all the time you all invested to get this one going. So if you do this, it's going to single-handedly destroy your chances of getting in there.
Yeah, but why would he do that in the first place? I don't see what possesses player characters to do this crap.
I don't know. Thankfully, he actually left the game after that session. So I had it to where his character was in one of the cargo containers, and they apparently forgot to poke air holes or something, and I suffocated him. But I already knew, he wasn't coming back.
Serves him right.
So, but yeah, I don't. I guess he just thought it. Either he didn't understand the plan properly, or he just thought it would be a cool idea. I don't know which one. Knowing the guy, from what I've heard of other stories about him, it was probably option B, maybe with some option A sprinkled in there. He didn't really fully understand the plan, so therefore he thought doing this would be a good idea. But I don't know, man. I really don't.
Yeah, honestly, this is one of my pet peeves. This really pisses me off. People who intentionally sabotage the games. Like if I'm a player, that's it. I won't play. I will leave games for that crap.
Yeah,
because I think it's the stupidest thing to intentionally sabotage a game. I don't even understand why you would do that. So
yeah. Well, and it's like I said before, leave it to the GM. The GM will screw your life over pretty well if they're doing things right. You don't have to screw things up yourself.
So I'm gonna tell one more story and then we need to move on. So
okay.
I was playing Shadowrun, which is my unicorn, and we were doing this one mission. We were supposed to, we were hired to clear out this housing block of civilians, like squatters, so that a corporation could come in and bulldoze the thing. So everyone was doing their thing, and then our mage, and I've used this story before, our mage, Ed Smith, Lizard of Doom, decided to go scouting, and he, he was going to go off by himself. And the party was like, oh, crap, this guy's a moron. I'm like, I'll watch him. And I was playing a gunslinger. So we went. Long story short, Ed Smith, Lizard of Doom, made a series of stupid things, stupid decisions, which ended up getting us trapped on the roof with the stairwell on fire.
No fun.
And a mob of angry orcs baying for our blood. So my character, being the smart one, I looked over and I was like, look, if we jump to that roof, we can then jump to the alley behind and escape. No problems. It's just a couple of agility tests. And he's like, nope. He turns to Jim and is like, I'm going to throw his character to the ogres and to save myself. And I'm like, you're going to do what?
Whose character?
My character.
Your character.
Yeah, he was going to just throw me over the side, like literally off a building to a mob of angry ogres. Keep in mind, he's the one who lit their couch on fire. He's the one who broke into their house. He's the one who lit their building on fire. He's the one who got us trapped here in the first place. Hell, he's the one who even wanted to come here. I was just here babysitting, and now he's going to hurl me off the roof. I said, all we have to do is jump to that roof, jump to that alley, and we're safe. He says, no, I'm going to throw you to the wolves. And I'm like, are you sure? And the GM's like, he's like, yep, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm like, okay. So he's like, I'm going to do this. And so he turns to grab me, and I look at the GM. I'm like, I'm sorry about this, man. I'm like, roll initiative, chucklehead. So here's the problem. I'm playing a cybered up street samurai, and he's playing a mage. Like, I'm all about initiative. So I'm like, fuck it. All right, do it. And so we rolled initiative, and I got like 3 passes before he even got a chance to pick his nose. I'm like, fine. And I pull my guns out. I'm like, pop, 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 pop. I killed him. Totally player kill. And I kicked his lifeless corpse to the mob. I jumped down the roofs, and I escaped with a sprained ankle. But here's a player who all he had to do was just literally just walk away. And he chose to try to sabotage, kill another player character, screw up our plans, for no reason.
Yep.
I cannot stand that kind of behavior. But that I'm done.
Yep. So, yeah. If you are getting bored with the game, and if it's boredom that is causing people to do that, if you're getting bored with the game, talk to the GM.
Yes.
Talk to the GM, talk to the other players, or find a different group. I'm sorry. That's basically the best way to deal with it. So, moving on. Number 5, and actually we've addressed this one a bit already with one of the earlier ones, but number 5, checking out. You'll get out of each session no more than you put into it. That is to say that if you check out each time another PC opens his mouth, each time you turn, your turn ends during combat, each time your cup is empty, well, you get the idea. This is the whole, even when it's not your turn, pay attention. At least try to pay attention. Try to keep tabs on what is going on in game, because you never know what is going on with someone other character. You don't know if it's going to affect your character or not. You might just be like, I'm not going to pay attention because this has nothing to do with my character. And next thing you know, your character has a gun to their face. Why does my character have a gun to their face? Well, you weren't paying attention the last 5 minutes.
Yep.
So guess what? I guess you're actually Darcy, who's in my Lucky 13 group. One of the things that she has been trying to do with her game to some extent is whatever you are doing is what your character is doing. So like if you're dozing off, your character is dozing off. If your character isn't paying attention, if you aren't paying attention, your character isn't paying attention. And she actually has called some people out on it before. Now, granted, I mean, there was one case where, a character, like, unfortunately, he has insomnia, and he was falling asleep because he literally did not get any sleep the night before, but he was still showing up the game, which on the one hand I can commend. On the other hand, it's like, dude, call the game, get some fucking rest.
Yeah.
But, like, he has chronic insomnia, so, like, this happens regularly. So that's why he came to game anyway. And he started dozing off, and like we were walking down a street, and she had it to where I was like, Jordan, you just stumble and fall flat on your face. And he was like, huh, what? And it's like, your character fell asleep because you were falling asleep. He was like, now granted, he rolled with it. He was like, "Oh well, shit. All right, sorry." And all right, fall by my face, and fall on my face, and the rest of us are like, "Are you freaking okay?" So but try to fucking pay attention. GMs too, but players, because you never know. You never know.
So would you like to know? We had to move to Ricky's place to run games because my family, and there's no internet there, so there's no Wi-Fi. Turning off the Wi-Fi has improved the nature of my game because people can no longer just go and screw around on their phone. And if you put a thing where your phones are on silent, you can only be on your phone for like emergency calls. And if you turn off the Wi-Fi so they can't access Wi-Fi on their device, so they can't play the little internet games and crap like that, they can't surf the web. Dude, just turning off freaking Wi-Fi has so improved the focus on my games because they can't go on the web, they can't dick around. So they have, I mean, they can still look at stuff on their iPad, and I do have some players who read the book, the source books. But if I'm like, look, no non-game related books at the table. Your phone is on silent. If it buzzes, work or kids, I understand that you can check it. And you have to step outside to take a phone call, fine. But no Wi-Fi, my games have never been better.
I've thought about doing that, especially considering I've got one player in my Lucky 13 group that like he'll sit there and be playing like MMOs. Yeah, when it's not his turn. So I've seriously thought about that. On the flip side, though, unfortunately, I utilize the web a lot when I'm GMing.
Run a hard line.
Not my place. And the router's like upstairs.
I have a 50.
That's not to say I can't get prepared enough, but
I carry a 50-foot coiled Ethernet cable in my bag for that reason.
Also my laptop, the laptop I have doesn't have a connection like that. I don't have an Ethernet.
You have a USB?
Yes, it does have a USB.
Ethernet to USB adapter. We can do this all day, dude. Bring it. My point is,
and again, like I said, though, the routers I think are like upstairs, so I don't dude, at the place where we usually games. I don't know, but I have been thinking about doing that. I have been thinking about
it is amazeballs. It is amazeballs. You take the internet away from people. You take phones on down face down on the table. On vibrate and emergency calls only, and only the only books and things that you can have at the table are game related. Your games will improve tenfold, like instantly. That right there. I cannot stress how freaking annoying it is to have players distracted in my games, and this wasn't even my fault. I mean, like I didn't even do this on purpose. Like this was just by virtue of what happened. This happened, and oh my god, I cannot tell you how epic it is. So there you go.
I will definitely have to consider that in my next game. So, of course, most of my games are online now too, so I can't exactly say no Wi-Fi. But for my in-person games, I will definitely have to consider that. So, all right, moving right along. Now, this one, I'll admit, I don't have much of a problem with this because as a GM, I'm really, okay, number 6 is stepping on new players. Okay. I don't have much of a problem with this because I'm really good about bringing new people into the fold. So I either my entire group is new people, or when I bring someone new, I let everyone know, yes, they're new, and then I really kind of focus on them to make sure things are going good for the first couple of sessions. But I know that this can be a problem in other groups. Then the article starts out as, it's an easy thing to do. 50% of the time, it's born of nothing more than an excitement to share the game with a newcomer. But be careful not, in all in caps, not to let your quote-unquote generosity smother a new player. There's a reason people find the game intimidating. There's a lot to it, and it's inhabited a taboo corner of geek culture until recently. So you need to be able to you need to be able to give a new player the space to be able to get comfortable with the game and with the setting. You need to give them time. I would also say try not to necessarily info dump as well, because that just throws too much, into a. Sorry, I was actually reading something. You know what? I will actually read all of this. Screw it. Give the new players the space to explore the game on their own. Try to, in all in caps, appreciate a fresh approach to the game and to problem solving. All in caps again, do not criticize their combat strategy as being suboptimal and recommend improvements in real time. Do not, again, all in caps, pressure them into a particular build. And for God's sake, do not count their dice for them. They'll figure it out, I promise. Instead, make yourself available if they have questions and treat them with the respect you'd expect as an experienced player. So, yeah, I mean, it's great to bring someone new into the fold, but you gotta understand, yes, they're new. Give them advice, but let them figure it out. And me as a GM, as I said in intervention, I'm really good about bringing new people in, and it was very evident at, not to toot my own horn, but it was very evident at intervention, because I mean, I had 2 of my 3 new players come back and want to play again. So, thoughts from you?
So the way I do it is this. When I bring in new people, I give them free reign to build their character however they wish. I tell them what's in the party, so they're not redundant. But if someone wants to build the tank, we already have a tank. I'm like, go with it. The way I do it is this: I bring them in. I usually try to pair them up with an existing player to sort of be their coach. So that while I'm running the game, if they have a question and they don't want to interrupt my game, they can turn to the guy next to them and be like, hey, how do I do this or whatever. That's a good
idea. That's a good idea.
I always pair them up with an experienced player. I don't count their dice for them, but I make sure that the experienced person there is to help them. I mean, obviously they can always come to me, but that way, because they oftentimes new players really don't feel comfortable like interrupting a game of like to stop the GM. But if they can turn to the guy next to them, who's not, it makes it much more comfortable. But the thing that I do is this. And this is kind of weird. Again, this is a born of years of running games. Is that I wait for the moment of engagement. I wait for the point at which with every player I encounter, there's always a moment where I can tell that they have embrace the game. And so I quite literally don't, I mean, I include them in the missions, I let them run their character, but I don't actually sort of begin to include them in the really in-depth stuff. I don't start throwing, personal plot hooks and giving them, personal conflicts and things like that until that moment of engagement. So basically, when players join my game, they come in and they're quite literally almost I don't want to say this is not bad, but almost is like an enlightened NPC, because I literally don't give them any more than here's the scenario, join us in combat, join us in the conversation, but I don't load anything else on them until the first time they as a character raise their hand or as a character interject in the conversation to put their own spin on things, to like really until they first take that first tentative step in coming up with a plan or offering a mission or whatever. And as soon as that happens, then I begin to incorporate them. So what's very interesting is that my games, everyone's tied together by these very intricate webs. But new people don't get incorporated into that web until such time as they show the interest to do so. So, and it could be 1 session, it could be 20 sessions. So I quite literally allow them, they drive how deep they get into the game.
That's actually kind of interesting, because I actually sometimes will do the reverse.
Yes, I know.
Whereas, like case in point with the Karma game I'm doing with Miri and Ben, they also wanted their friend Emmy to be involved in it. And I was like, hey, this game is for you guys. So that's up to you. So I was talking with Emmy about about her character and about what she wanted to do, and she kind of was like, well, I kind of like playing sneaky characters. I was like, that's great. And then I got a really good idea, and I was like, hey, I realize, you're new at this and whatnot, and you're new because it was my world too. I don't remember if she said something like her backstory or what that spurned the idea, but I was like, hey, I've got this really good idea, and of course I'm like, and you can decline it if you want. That's up to you. But what if we made your character a prince? Because she was playing a guy, and she wanted to say that she was from this one country, and with her backstory, I think is what gave the ideas. Is like, because the king and queen of one of my countries, they're retired adventurers. In fact, like the king's a bard and the queen's, I think, a sorceress. So it would make sense to me that they would send their son off to the adventurers college and let him go adventuring to learn the world as they did before he had to come back and take care of his duties as being prince. So I was just like, why don't we make it to where you're actually the prince, but you're in hiding? So, you don't use your real name, you have a signet ring that you can bust out when you really need to, and she ate it up. She was like, that's great. So like it almost forced or drew her to engage very early on because I gave her that hook. Now, granted, she could have just said like, oh, I don't, if she had been like, oh, I don't know, I would have been like, you know what, don't worry about it. That's fine. I try to gauge how they're gonna deal with it. She ate it up. And it's been great in the game so far because, like, occasionally she's come across some people that would recognize her, but I haven't like just busted it out, because they recognize that they know the character, but they also realize that the character has like not introduced themselves. They're not here in an official function. They're probably in hiding, and so they'll like, we'll keep the secret for right now. And I can't wait for the big reveal for the rest of the group when they find out just who exactly this person is that they've been traveling with for like weeks now. But I can, so it's kind of two sides of the same coin, I guess, because I mean, I can see with you not wanting to like lay it on so much to let them ease into it. Whereas with me, I use it to hook them in and pull them in real quick. So, and I guess it just depends on style.
It does. Whatever, what works well. But the thing is just, it also depends on the players. So as GMs, make sure you're just not overloading. Some need help incorporating. Some need a little time to get ready or get integrated. So figure out what works best for you and your players.
And granted, sometimes they'll just bust out with it on their own too.
Yes.
Because the players I corrupted at Intervention, like I was like, okay, so I recommended Star Wars for them because I was like, Star Wars is a great game for me. A, it's the game I've been GMing the longest. But B, it's also it's something that just about everyone knows. Everyone has heard of Star Wars. Just about everyone has watched Star Wars. If you've seen the original trilogy, that's all I need. That's all the bases I need to be able to pull you into my game. So I recommended to them. I was like, let's do Star Wars. Be thinking about what type of characters. And I told them, I was like, you can be anything you want to be. I am that good of a GM. I can deal with anything. Give it to me. So one guy was like, you know what? I want to be an engineer. I was like, great. One guy was like, I want to be, what was he? He's just like, I just want to shoot guns. I was like, you want to be a gun bunny? That's great. One girl was like, I want to be like a mystic healer. And I was like, all right, I was like, Jedi? And she's like, well, not necessarily Jedi, but I want to use the Force. I was like, okay. And I have this special order in my universe I told her about. I was like, they're actually, kind of pacifistic healers, da-da-da-da-da. They're kind of difficult to play, and she was like, she's like, I think that sounds great. I was like, wonderful. I looked at the fourth one, and she was like, I want to be an espionage droid. I was like, wait, what? I was like, for a beginning person who's never gamed before, to want to play, she was like, I think it was like, she was trying to think of what type of character. I was like, well, we don't have a sneak. We don't have kind of a roguish character. And she was like, I want to be an espionage droid. I was just like, okay, that kind of came out of left field. And then I rolled with it. I was just like, I thought it was a great idea. She was like, that's not too difficult or anything. I'm like, if you want to play it, that's you. I can make it work. And we did. And she had a blast. So I just had to get another story in there.
Yes, you did.
I love my stories. All right. So anything else on this one? I mean, just
We're good.
Yeah, we're good. All right. So number 7. Now, number seven is failing to contribute to the snack fund. Most of my games being online, this one's kind of null and void. As much as I would love for people to, be able to pass out snacks on the internet. I can understand having some issues with this one, just in the sense of because money is tight for me. So I know it can be tight for others, but it's amazing what just giving a couple of bucks can do when everyone does it. And I like because the in the article, the paragraph is very short on this one. This is, number 7, failing to contribute to the snack fund. He's like, need I say more? Bring a 12-pack of soda, a bag or 2 of chips. Tight on cash? Try throwing a couple of bucks into the snack fund instead. Now, work out a rotation. Don't go broke, but do the best to contribute. It's easy to take advantage of your host or a generous player. Now, in some cases, I have had some people in my groups just been like, I've got the snacks. I've got it covered. Great. And if they do it each and every time, fine. That's on them. But, I will fully admit, I have taken a little too much advantage of some generous, players before. Because actually with the Lucky 13 group, it used to be because we go to Darcy and Cisco's, their house, because Darcy has a dog, one of the helper dogs. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because she has a medical condition, requires the dog to help her get up and deal with stuff, and I completely blank on the official name of it. I'm sorry, but so they used to fix up lunch or dinner, and there was one time that it got brought to my attention that they kind of were miffed at me about. They never brought it up themselves, but someone else did. And when they did, I felt really bad because basically it was, we came in, we ate, and then we only had a little time to game because then I had to go someplace else. And they pretty much felt that I was just kind of there for the food, which wasn't the case, but that's how they felt about it. And that's kind of, that's what mattered. And I did feel bad about it. And so eventually they were just like, no, we can't do that anymore. I was like, that's fine. On the flip side, I have tried to organize, because at one point in time, Liz and I were like, look, we'll cook for the group, but we need money in advance. So people, if everyone donated $5, the next week we'd have a meal, and it wouldn't be too bad once we got started. Once you got that rotation going. The problem was that some of the people couldn't do $5 every week. And so therefore it's like, well, we can't afford to keep, cooking if we don't have something coming in. So and maybe that's going to a bit of an extreme, but I mean, it's the same as, everyone chipping in some money for some pizza. If your gaming group does do snacks and food and whatnot during group, because I know sometimes they don't, some groups don't. If you do, either take care of yourself or, try to work something out with the rest of the group. And if you're taking care of yourself, either, don't be a dick about it. Don't order a full pizza and then just sit there and eat it yourself. When I take care of myself, basically that's what we do with the group now is everyone's kind of in charge of their own little food. First and foremost, everyone is in charge of that. If I've got something to share, I'll offer, but usually I'll bring just enough for myself. And, because I know everyone else is taking care of themselves. But, if someone's like, hey, let's order pizza, if it's me bringing up the idea, it's like, hey, do you all want to chip in and let's all order pizza? Not like, I'm ordering pizza for myself. Screw you guys, and then sit there and have a whole pizza. Cause that's just kind of, that's being a dick. Yeah.
Well, you know what I do? First of all, snacks with our group isn't a huge issue because, we all have, we're all pretty good with snacks, but what I actually do for my players is every so often I actually provide dinner. typically thematically appropriate. So, it
Oh,
depends.
that's right. That's right. I remember you telling me about this before.
Yeah. So, I mean, they buy me drinks. And I reward them. I reward them with bennies in my game if they provide me drinks to keep me caffeinated. It's like cash for bennies. It's totally bribing the GM.
Yeah, well, and I was about to say, I have fully admitted I am a very bribable GM.
Yes.
Every group, I'm like, I take bribes. And no one takes me up on it. Like, I have been bribed once with food in the Lucky 13 group. That's it. I'm just like, it's like, maybe I haven't, said it to where they put 2 and 2 together. It's like, if you really want something in the game, because usually I'm like, if you really want something, you need to come up, with either good backstory or good role play. But if you really want something, also bribe me.
Well, that's
Chinese food is always food in general. But if you really want to get to me, Chinese, that'll get you just about anything in one of my games.
Well, I have, like I said, I have a bennies for caffeine ratio, and I also provide meals for my players. But yeah, bring some drinks, bring some snacks. Don't be the one guy who never contributes. That, I mean, and it really is, need we say more?
Yeah, it really is. So, all right, number 8, engaging in non-rewarding conflict. This relates back to number 1, slavish role-playing. In a nutshell, try and limit inter-party conflict to those which are dramatically rewarding. Those which contribute to the narrative rather than distract. D&D at its core is a social/cooperative game. Now that sounds cliche, but what it means is this: a large part of the player's motivation, not the characters necessarily, should be to, and he gives a list, strengthen the bond of the party, support each other's player character concept in game, weave your story alongside the other characters, work together towards your goals. The exception to this rule comes when tension or opposition within the party results in dramatic role-playing role-playing rewards. Blah, 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 blah. So I've had to deal with this too. I've had to deal with this a lot. Well, the Come to Jesus meeting I had for the one Star Wars game was my party was splitting in 2 because, granted, as it turned out, they weren't fully clear on just what exactly the campaign was, which was on me. But one of the players was also thought that he just didn't think the other players were playing their characters right and just wanted to leave them on some deserted moon. So group cohesion. Try to, like I said, a large part of your players' motivations, the players, not the characters necessarily, should be to try to strengthen the party, support the other other players' characters' concepts. You're all weaving a story together and work together towards the goal. Obviously, like with my example, though, you need to make sure the goal is, everyone knows what the goal is. But, it is important for the GM to make sure that everyone gets, some limelight and some center stage, as we've said multiple times, even today. But it is all of you weaving your stories together. So don't be, again, it's kind of like don't be the dick character that's picking a fight just cause. If your character is having issues with another character, talk to the other character, talk to the GM. Worst case scenario, now of course in this case it might be like, well, I don't want to give up my character, he has to give up his, but that's where the GM really needs to come into play. And you know what? Maybe both of you need to change characters. Yes. Or something needs to happen. Now, granted, maybe the GM is like, hey, let's role play this out in game. And I've had that happen too. I've actually had where a group has done that on their own. One of the player characters was having issues with what the group was going to do and was about to actually turn on the rest of the group. The character was about to basically contact the authorities and turn in the rest of the group, because he didn't feel like what was going on. Basically, he thought that it was a lesser of two evils. He thought that the evil they were dealing with then was lesser than the evil that they had been dealing with, but because of what had happened, that greater evil was now gone. And he was like, why do we want to go back? Yes, he didn't really see, even though it was an evil, he didn't see the evil that they were in as being evil or as being as bad. And so the rest of the group pretty much had to come together and explain it to his ass, basically going, look, this is what's really happening. So, yeah, go.
I had a game that nearly collapsed because 2-player characters they argued all the time. And it got to the point, we talked about it in a couple of them. This was in the Star Wars game that eventually collapsed, or eventually ended because of the death of actually one of my players. But
which
before
Star Wars game was
this? This was the one where I had the Jedi the Jedi cyborg who had no force powers, but it was the Saga game. I was playing it last year. It had 3 guys in it. Anyway,
I don't remember much of this one. So.
Well, anyway, so basically,
wait, was this one I guest starred in?
Yes.
And then fell apart. Oh, okay, that's right. I think you did say that it had ended. Okay,
my
I'm sorry.
God. And 2 of the players they argued all the time, and the game nearly ended because they neither one of them could get over themselves, their players and the characters, and it got so frustrating after a while because I'm like, guys, we're trying to do a mission together. It's great that your characters have some conflict because in Star Wars, there was conflict between look at Han Solo and Leia during the entire first 2 movies. I mean, they were constantly sniping at each other, but they still put aside their differences to get the shit done. But that's the problem is having inter-party rivalry, inter-party conflict is fine so long as you're both working toward a common goal. But that's not what happened. They would spend most of the game arguing about how to go. Either how to go about a mission or whether to take on a mission in general, and we got very little actual mission time in. So the thing is having tension within a group can be rewarding for role play up until the point where it interrupts your ability to complete a mission. And the minute you are not doing the job at hand because you're arguing, stop arguing. Either come to a resolution, change characters, or the GM needs to, consider, redoing the party or redoing the game. And that's really all I got to say about that, because I've had too many games that either nearly collapsed or collapsed because of this crap.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and actually I had one of the times where a game blew up in my face so fast I couldn't deal with it was because of tension between two players. It wasn't even really their characters. It was 2 players.
Yep.
And I didn't know that there was animosity between the 2 players dealing with the game until literally one of the players handed me his character sheet and walked out, and the game just blew up.
Yep. And I've had it happen too. We've talked about it.
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah. So just, I mean, again, yeah, it might be fun. It might be one thing to keep in mind with this one, and I'm going to try to keep this being the last thing I say about it. One thing to keep in mind is it might be fun for you, but keep in mind that it is directly dealing with another player and their character, and it may not be fun for them.
Yep.
So now if 2 players got together and worked it out and decided to have conflict between their characters, more power to them. I would appreciate if they inform the GM, especially if I'm the GM. But if they don't, hey, that's fine. Keeping the GM on their toes is one of the things I like about a lot of my players. So, but if you all work it out between each other, fine. But so long as it doesn't distract from the rest of the group too. So there's that. Okay, so ready?
Yep, 9.
Okay, number 9. Critiquing, and then in parentheses it has rules lawyering. Oh boy.
I've got this in my current game, and it drives me insane.
Well, what he has is this is a pretty familiar trope to most of you. It's true you may have memorized each page in the player's handbook. You may have the rules compendium on your iPad, etc. understanding that a good DM may fudge or ad-lib rules to preserve pacing or flow during a session. This goes for undermining the narrative too. Because in quotes is, this is straight out of a short story I skimmed in your bathroom. Yes. GMs to come up with compelling stories oftentimes borrow information. If you understand where they're borrowing it from, don't be a freaking dick about it. But just rules loring in general, I'm guilty of. But I, at least when I do it, I do try to help.
Here's another take on it. You may. So you remember that whole thing about not overloading new players? So let's say you've got a guy in your group who knows the system cold. Hell, better than the GM. Let's say a new player comes in, and let's say the new player has a particular kind of build they're aiming for. If you're an experienced player, it's all right to suggest to other people how they can improve their characters, items they can take, edges, feats, skills, abilities, attributes, whatever. But don't harass people about what you think they should do to min-max, to munchkin out their character. Because rules lawyers tend to be power gamers, and it drives me nuts. And I've actually had this problem in my game where I've had individuals who are constantly trying to, like, oh, you're playing that type of character. Well, you've got to have this. You got to have this. You got to do this. You got to do this. Oh, you shouldn't take that. You can't take that. You got to take this. This will make you more powerful. Do this. And it's like, and the person's like, look, I'm trying to create. This is my character, and I've actually had to ask people to calm the hell down, and be like, look. You can suggest to this person what they might need, and if they thank you kindly for your input, but stop harassing them just because you think you know how to do it better. Maybe they don't want to do that route. Maybe they want a more well-rounded character. Maybe they don't want a min-max munchkin character. And another one is I actually let one of my players run my game a couple weeks ago, and they came up with this one thing where he asked for a role for a group of players at the table, and the one of the more rules luring type guys goes, "Are you sure? Don't you want to do it this way?" And I'm so happy that the player, this is his first time running a game. He goes, "No, roll this," and the guy's like, "No, I think you really want to roll." And the guy was like, "No, roll this," and the rules lawyer was like, "No, it should be," and the guy was like, "Roll this," and the rules lawyer was like, "Okay." And they rolled it. I was so proud. And sometimes as a GM, you just have to be – he wasn't mean about it. He was just insistent. This is what I want you to roll. You don't know what I'm thinking, so roll what I ask you to roll.
Yep. Now, granted, I mean, there have been times where I've been like, someone will be like, I want to do this. And I'm just like, okay, roll this. And someone else is like, well, in the system you do this and this and this, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right, fine, well, let's just do that then. And sometimes I just been like, you know what, screw that, let's just do this. I mean, when I roll rules lawyer, when I'm like playing in a game, I'll try to be like, especially if it's a system I know well, because I'm always trying to be helpful. So a GM will be like, let's do this, or they'll be like, okay, I'm coming across this. I was like, well, the rules say this. But you're the GM, so you can do whatever the hell you want. I always put that in. Or I'll be like, sometimes I'll be like, oh, wow. And they're like, what? I was like, well, the rules say this, but you're doing it this way, and I think that's kind of cool. And they're like, well, really? The rules say that? I'm like, yeah, but, screw it. You're the GM. You do whatever you want. I thought this was kind of neat, so let's just roll with it.
Well,
like,
the difference is what you're talking about is the difference is like, hey, the rules say this, but, go with what you want. What I'm talking about is the people who, and the rules and the critiquing, they are insistent that it has to be this way. The rules say this, it has to be this. And I'm like, you know what? You aren't aware of all the factors that are playing into it. I had a guy last night who was kind of like this, and he rolled a thing, an opposed check, and I won, and I rolled the damage. And then and then when he found out how much damage it was going to be, he's like, no, I want to go back and spend a bit and re-roll. And I'm like, okay. So because you're not supposed to do that, but I was like, fine. So he re-rolled it. It got a little bit better result. I rolled the lower damage. My damage dice blew up even more. He got even more damage, and he threw a hissy fit. He's like, wait a minute. How did I get more damage when I got a better result? I said, because you forced me to re-roll, and the dice ended up blowing up more.
Yep.
And he goes, well, that doesn't seem fair. And I'm like, look, technically speaking, after the damage is rolled, you can't re-roll a skill check. It's in the rules. I allowed you to re-roll it. Now you take more damage because you were trying to break the rules. I'm going to be a nice GM. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let you go with the lesser damage result just because I'm not trying to kill you. And he's like, well, fine. I just don't see how. And I'm like, and I said, read the rules. And he goes, and when they looked at it, he's like, oh, yeah, I see. I was being nice about it, but that's the kind of crap I'm talking about. He went and tried to, sort of circumvent the damage because he didn't want to take damage, keeping in mind that he had meditatively cast a thing where he'd given everyone in the party 2 actions around and quickness. And so he had completely like min-maxed, munchkin everyone in the party. So they were just mowing through my enemies. This was the first time he'd taken any damage in the game. And he wanted to, to sort of like rules-lure his way out of it. And what I'm talking about is sometimes GM fudge things in order to help you, or sometimes GM fudge things in order to hurt you. Sometimes GM are trying to keep the pace of the game because things are taking too long. It's what the GM says goes, even if it's not in the rules.
Most gaming systems in the beginning pages of the rule book, they say these are just guidelines. If you're the GM, you can take what of these you want and throw out the rest. And actually, what was it? White Wolf. I love. They said it's like these are just guidelines. If you want, you could take this entire book and throw it out the window.
Yes.
So
So as a player, you need to understand that.
Yep. So, all right. Last one. Number 10, violating the social contract. And I think I'm going to try to read this whole thing considering. This is an umbrella of sorts covering all we've talked about thus far. Like we agreed, D&D comes from a social gaming contract. You're here to work as a team and create an enjoyable narrative. Your responsibility is to embrace the other player characters' concepts, not deny them or diminish them. Understand that Randy may not have the same vocabulary as his character, Devin the Bard. So assume Randy's dialogue is reflected through a clouded mirror, with the reflected through clouded mirror being in quotes. Make the adjustments you need to in your own mind to allow him some margin for error. Pass the spotlight at the expense of optimization. Yes, you might have a higher intelligence score, but be willing to ask the brainiac wizard for his advice. Reinforce his character concept by offering him chances to shine. This, especially for those last few sentences, would help GMs so much if the player characters did more of. It is sometimes hard because I've mentioned before of trying to make sure everyone has a spotlight, during the story, but sometimes it's really hard to do that. Just because some players and sometimes their characters are really built to kind of just shine more. So it would really help. It really helps the GM if you do a bit of footwork yourself with that.
Yeah.
So
what I have is,
it's kind of like with the whole Shea method that we were talking about earlier.
What I have is this. In a lot of my games, I have people who have speech impediments, stuttering, lisps. Some people, they don't have the big vocabulary, Asperger's, on various levels, social anxiety, public speaking problems. People who play military characters who have no knowledge about military tactics and strategy, or who have never,
or even just the overall culture,
even the overall so. I mean, I'm throwing these things out there.
Yeah.
We play characters because we want to be something else. We're trying to portray a role. It's just like those doctors on TV. They're not doctors. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're just speaking technobabble that a doctor consultant on the show approved. They have no idea what they're doing. They're not surgeons. They're playing a part. Now, they have people to write scripts for them, right? They just have to read, to recite what someone else wrote. In a game, you don't have that luxury. You have to think this stuff up on the fly.
Yep.
So,
and that's not easy.
And that ain't easy. So, you know, and it drives me nuts. And I've actually had to call some people on this that they've actually like laughed at or mocked or whatever people because they you know, they weren't able, they stuttered or they tripped over their words or whatever. And I've actually had to call people on this. I'm like, look, guys, you're not an orc, you're not a barbarian, and you sure as hell aren't a beauty queen. But you're playing characters. Suspension of disbelief. You need to give him or her the same leeway to experience and to explore and to play their characters that they're giving you. You don't have wings. You can't fly. So shut the hell up when that guy over there can't recite a limerick and he's playing a bard. We are here to encourage each other. And you know what's interesting about that? If you encourage other people, if you encourage expression, if you don't stifle people, it is amazing how they'll grow. It is amazing to watch a guy who plays a bard for 5 years, from the beginning can't string two words together to the end is writing epics. It's amazing to watch a guy or a girl come in who's never been in a fight their entire life, who plays a fighter, who doesn't know the first thing about about combat, who doesn't know the term sword and board, doesn't know what a shield wall is, doesn't know, how to take command. 4 or 5 years down the road is leading like freaking Napoleon. It's amazing to watch if you give people the support and encouragement they need to play their character and don't stifle them, don't ridicule them because they can't. In the epic game, I'm beginning to see poems coming out of Anaya.
Mary. Yeah.
It is amazing. When we started this thing, she didn't do that. Now she is. She's writing these beautiful and epic poems, and it is amazing to watch. And players learn just like their characters do. And a guy who plays a barbarian long enough will become the noble savage. Players who play the warrior enough will learn strategy and tactics. The bards will learn how to write poetry and speak in limericks. The priest will learn holy incantations and will do the research to learn like Latin phrases to enhance their characters. And the sorcerers will have a spell book and name each spell, but only if the GMs and the players give them the room to grow and give them the encouragement and the support they need. If you think that they're not playing their character well enough, it's probably because you're not giving them the chance.
There may be other factors, but yes, that preach it.
Go on, dude.
Dude, I don't think I can add much to what you just said. I really can't. You pretty much you wrapped it up really freaking well there. I got nothing.
And by the way, Mary, the poetry is epic.
Oh yes, very very much so. It's brought tears to my eyes.
It has brought tears to his eyes.
So yes,
and mine.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you're in it together.
Yes.
And it's not the players versus the GM either. The GM is a part of it too. Yes, the GM has to shoulder a lot more responsibility than the rest of you because not everyone can sit behind that damn screen. But you all are in it together. So work together to try to yeah, sometimes when someone does something stupid or a bad roll happens or something happens, it's still a good game. You all still have fun. And that happens to me a lot. But, that should not be, that's not always the norm. Unless you're really wanting to play a freaking silly game, in my opinion, really shouldn't be the norm. But regardless, you're all in it together, work together. You all are trying to tell a story together. And yeah, like freaking Howard said, I mean, just support each other. What is it from Battlestar Galactica? The gods lift up those that lift up each other. That should be freaking role-playing credo right there.
Yes, it should.
So the dice hold up those that hold up each other. So Anyway, so this article, like I said, I'm going to link it when we post it. Is from epiclevelgaming.com. 10 sins of 10 sins of players. And I mean, and of course, as we've told with a lot of our examples and stories and whatnot, it doesn't have to be just D&D. That's just what they titled it. I even got, when we got to the bottom, it was even a section of like you might also like some other some other articles, and there was another one, the value of role playing that we might touch on after I give it a good read in another episode. So, wow,
that is a long episode.
It's season start, man. Should be.
It's going to be a good season. I have a feeling.
It better be. Say we're bringing this back from almost the dead. It damn well better be.
So to all our listeners that have been asking about season 6, well, there you go.
Yep, here we go.
You're to blame for all of this.
We have rolled up a snowball and thrown it into hell. Let's see how long it lasts. we have started the tumble of pebbles. It will most likely be an avalanche by the time it all gets done, but we'll have to see. So anyway, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can, of course, since we're now on YouTube, you can leave a comment on in the YouTube thingy, whatever. Damn it, it's been too long. There's also Twitter, which I need to get back into using again. Email and the blog. Love to hear from you guys. We'd love to hear where we have on what you would like for us to cover or do or anything along. So, anything else?
Nope, just that you're breaking up a little bit, dude.
All right. Well, then let's bring this to an end. So we do thank you for listening to us next time. I've been your GM Byron.
I have been your cohort Howard.
No, you're host, not cohort.
Hey, I like the cohort.
All right, fine. And just remember the motto of Rho Pi Gamma is roll high, play well, die hard.